sound like this. This is Kimani Chungwa this morning, saying the load of violence lies without blinking and is aided by the Githeri media to use anarchy and propaganda to negotiate for selfish gain on the blood of innocent Kenyans. And today, they haven't even spared their sponsor. How shameless. Raila Odinga. Move on to the next one this morning so we can see exactly what it is. Majority of Kenyans think. This is Kimilili Member of Parliament, Didmas Baraza, saying if the police do not arrest Raila Odinga within 24 hours, we want to ask our supporters, Kenya Kwanza supporters, to arrest Raila and take him to the nearest police station. We're going to continue. Honorable Kuria Himani, who's the Member of Parliament Molo, is saying, Dear Raila Amolo Odinga supporters and sympathizers, as you may or may not have noticed, your leader was absent in action today. But he incited you to loot and vandalize. These are economic crimes that have far-reaching legal implications. The government of Kenya shall get in touch with you sooner than you may think, and you will be on your own. This is economic sabotage. All Kenyans of goodwill are now enjoined. See ya. All right, continue this morning as well. See exactly what Kenyans and leaders are talking about on this particular issue. I want to read the sentiments of one Dr. Miguna saying that it's true that Kenyans are hungry and extremely angry. It is true that Kenyans are disappointed by the slowness with which Kenya Kwanza administration is responding to their dire straits. It is true that Kenya Kwanza has failed to communicate effectively on whatever programs and concrete initiatives they have put in place to alleviate the biting high cost of living. It's also true that Raila Amolo Odinga and his maniacs are taking advantage of the situation and causing havoc over problems they caused during the handshake, the abuse of power and plunder. But fellow Kenyans, destroying the highways, roads and property you paid for with your taxes, and whose repair and reconstruction you will pay for, isn't the most productive way to express your anger. At the end of the day, Raila Amolo Odinga will sleep soundly at his current Kisumu, Opoda, Mombasa, Malindi, Johannesburg or Dubai mansions as you nurse your wounds, stay in jail, or as your bereaved relatives bury you in a shallow graves. That you have the right to protest peacefully, but not to cause mayhem and havoc. Remember that tomorrow it is your taxes that will pay for what you have destroyed. Well, some of the reactions then that are coming from what we witnessed yesterday across the country, and this morning we are going to get into that conversation and talk about what we saw yesterday and put it into proper perspective. What next for the government? Because indeed, the Azimio coalition is saying again, we are going to get back at it. And this is not the end, that until we get a hearing, we will come back again. My name is Simba, Elijah Charles Kiage. This is the Morning Drift. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. We will be with you all the way to 9:30 this morning, talking issues pertaining the economy and our political economy. For now, we take a tiny breather. Once we come back, I'll be taking you straight to whatever it is that you're waking up to in your newspapers this morning. Welcome back. In case you're just joining us, this is Lookuptv and this is the Morning Drift. We are online on Lookuptv across all your social media platforms. The hashtag is the Morning Drift. Let's jump into our dailies this morning, and I would like to start with the Daily Nation, and they only have one word for it, SIM, as the one word they had the day before yesterday. They're talking about shut down, the day of chaos, Two contrasting images emerged from the ashes of chaos yesterday to provide a remarkable commentary of the two worlds of a country teetering on the precipices, or one where the rule of law and order carried the day, and the other where civil disobedience disrupted economies and livelihoods and even brought lives to violent ends. And you can see the pictures right there of how the chaos turned out yesterday in the country, in the capital and out of the capital as well, with the Daily Nation giving us just a snapshot of what happened in Kisii, Homa Bay, Mombasa, Nyeri, right there. And this is exactly what happened. There was a transport crisis yesterday. There was a protest that spread across 20 counties as Kindiki continued to warn of arrests. There were business losses and fear of vandalism across the 20 counties. Schools were closed as parents kept their children at home over safety concerns, and there were also reports that 7 people were killed and dozens injured in the protests yesterday. So you will see exactly what it is. In terms of those images, if you go to pages 2 and 3, they are awash of those particular images and exactly what happened yesterday, with massive destruction in some parts of the capital and some parts of the country as well, most notably in areas of Kisumu, Nairobi, and even in some parts of Kisii as well, with police struggling to put the country back into a state of law and order. What happened yesterday, though, is that Raila Amolo Odinga did cancel the Kamkunji rally, and we'll see exactly what it is. So if you, some story that has been covered on page 4 as well, with a good map there showing you exactly where the protests were. 20 counties have now joined the protest. That's exactly what the Daily Nation is calling it, all the way from Trans Nzoia at the horn of the country to Laikipia, with Mombasa, Kilifi, Makueni, Kisii, Nakuru, Nyamira, Migori, Homa Bay, Siaya, and Kisumu, with the capital Nairobi also now witnessing the worst of those chaos. That's exactly what the Daily Nation has for you this morning in terms of the big stories as well. And on the back pages as well, there's a story here that you're going to read about how losers in the Kemsa deal win Global Fund and Nets contract. The two firms were among the 17 companies that were unsuccessful bidders at Kemsa. You read that story because Kemsa essentially is still making headlines this morning. Now let's cross over to the Standard. Again, it is a similar headline really when you look at this particular daily as well. They're talking about the day of chaos and death. Now, Kenyans across the country demonstrated over the high cost of living, but numerous instances of property destruction are witnessed, with some protesters shot and killed. Businesses in most towns were shut, as Azimio leader claims thugs were hired by government officials to cause chaos. That story has also been covered on pages 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, and 8 of the Standard this morning. And really, when you look at what the summary this morning is in terms of those particular highlights, they're talking about how Raila cancelled a rally that was scheduled at Kamkunji, saying it was to be infiltrated. That's the first one. Number 2, Azimio leader also claimed thugs were sponsored by state officials to unleash terror in Nairobi. Continues to say the protesters and activists decried the heavy police hand, and property was destroyed in most towns. Thugs went on a looting spree, and matatu operators downed their tools, saying the cost of living is high, down essentially to the expensive fuel. And this is what the statement for Raila Amolo Odinga was essentially when he was cancelling that Kamkunji rally, was saying that to avert more injury and loss of lives, we have taken the strategic decision not to proceed with the rally at Kamkunji. That's exactly what he said yesterday when they essentially went right ahead and then to cancel that particular rally. You want to get a summary of exactly what happened yesterday. By the way, some of those stories, actually not some, all of them have been covered on our website on www.lookuptv.co.ke. But if you want to get into the Standard, that story has been covered on pages 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8. That's essentially almost the entire newspaper, and that's what we've seen this morning, also from the Daily Nation. On the back of that, we did have the arrival, albeit the confusion that was surrounding his arrival into the country. I'm talking about the Iranian president, that is Raisi. Ibrahim was in town with a raft of trade deals. That particular story has been covered this morning on our news and on our website, and you can actually get to read it on pages 12 of the Standard. That's exactly what it is this morning. Now you do know. For now, we take a tiny breather. Once we do come back, we'll be going straight to the newsroom where we get to share with you the biggest stories that you are also waking up to this morning, in as much as our newsroom is concerned. Welcome back. Now, notorious criminal gangs in Nakuru have been a nightmare for residents for a long time. But after weeks of intense police crackdown reforms, criminals have been initiated into an empowerment program that will integrate them into the society. The program commissioners have noted that the program, supported by the government agencies and faith-based organizations, seeks to equip participants with knowledge about urban farming and raising tree nurseries for sustainable income.
Police, iwe ni secondary school, ni primary school, na hiyo miti naipata kutoka kwa partners ama kwa serikali. Na nikiipata, ninaona ni pahali kuna hitaji, ninapanga na hawa, tunaenda tunapanda hiyo miti, hasa miti ya matunda. Tena tunawafunza usafi, vile wanakuwa wasafi, mwili, roho, matendo, mpaka hata na njiani. Kila kitu ambayo nimefanya sana kwa serikali ni mambo inaitwa drug and drug abuse. Drug and drug abuse ni ya kwamba tunaambia vijana umuhimu wa kutotumia dawa za kulevya.
Wengine kwa sababu ya kukosa karo, kwa sababu ya kukosa maisha mazuri, kwa sababu maisha imefanya wazazi wengine kutengana kutoka kwa familia, kuzambaratika kwa familia kumefanya vijana hawa vikundi hivi vinaibuka.
Now, Kenya is set to exploit the strong ties it enjoys with Iran to expand trade. Speaking at the State House yesterday morning while meeting Iran President Ibrahim Raisi, Ruto said trade volumes between the two countries are still low, but with potential to grow. Now, during their meeting, the two heads of state witnessed the signing of new MOUs and agreements in agriculture, livestock, and heritage information, ICT, fisheries, housing, urban and metropolitan development.
Nice to meet you. Thank you very much and welcome to Nairobi. Today, President Raisi and I have witnessed the signing of 5 memoranda of understanding on cooperation in information, communication and technology, fisheries, animal health and livestock products, and investment promotion. These memoranda will enhance and further deepen our bilateral relations for sustainable growth and development between our two countries. We have affirmed our joint commitment to capitalize on this unique advantage. I express to His Excellency the President our appreciation of our bilateral cooperation in the promotion of trade, particularly in the export of Kenyan products to Iran. Most specifically, I sought the President's commitment in facilitating the export of more tea, meat and other agricultural products to Iran is also highly encouraged by the great interest shown by Iran in promoting technological and entrepreneurial innovation among Kenyan youth by promoting incubation of Kenya's startups and creative industry through the Iran House Innovation and Technology Center. This is an outstanding intervention that is innovative and directly aligned with our national aspiration towards creating a digital superhighway and a robust digital economy as primary pillars of the bottom-up economic transformation agenda.
And our fraternal country of Kenya, they registered our enthusiasm and their willingness for having relation with Iran, and their Iranian products in different fields could be made available in Kenya and find their own markets. And I'm sure that the president has created this atmosphere and this groundwork, and this visit, which is a turning point in the development of relation between two countries, could create the market, could further create markets for Iranian products in Kenya and by extension and in the east of Africa. I'm sure there are possibilities for that. We welcome with the development of relation between Iran and Kenya. We greatly welcome such a development of relation, and with the talks and exchange of notes that we had with the president, with the meeting earlier today, we registered the determination and resolve of both countries for expansion of economic and trade cooperation, political cooperation, cultural cooperation between two countries.
Three people lost their lives yesterday during the anti-government demonstrations in Mlolongo, Machakos County. Protests were also witnessed in various parts of Nairobi, with a property worth millions of shillings destroyed as Kenyans took to the streets to decry the high cost of living. The protests came in the wake of Azimio La Umoja leader Raila Odinga calling on Kenyans to protest against President William Ruto's administration, which he termed as illegitimate. Let's take a look.
Mlolongo, Machakos County, anti-government protesters took to the streets to voice their frustrations against the government, as urged by Azimio leader Raila Odinga. However, the protests took a different turn after 3 people lost their lives with dozens of others injured after a battle ensued between the protesters and the police officers. With the police castigated for the use of excessive force in Kisii County, the law enforcers engaged in running battles with protesters after supporters of Governor Simba and those of Majority Whip Silvana Sosoro engaged in a fight before the police intervened. Former Kisii Deputy Governor Josh Mangi has urged Raila Odinga to tone down the demonstrations and let the government deliver, insisting that the cost of living will not be brought down through demonstrations.
No way you can reduce the cost of unga through maandamano. Instead, what you're doing, you're increasing the cost, because people today, there's no business going on. Our children did not go to school today. People are not even doing farming today because there's maandamano. Only one way of reducing the cost of unga is by producing more maize, and that's why I support the president 100%. That we subsidize fertilizer so that we promote production of maize.
In Nakuru County, police were forced to use tear gas canisters after the protesters took to the streets. Most businesses in the area remained closed, while others were looted, with the protesters calling out President William Ruto for the high cost of living, contrary to what he promised during the campaigns.
Alafu sasa hawa watu wa Zakayo wanakuja na hizi silaha, wanataka kutuua kwa sababu tunaandamana kwa haki yetu. Hatutawacha kuandamana.
Unga imepanda bei, hata sufuria hadi saizi inatoboka. Umeona? Sasa mimi naomba bei ya unga iteremke. Amen. Mnasikia? Hata nyinyi mkirudi huko mwambie mimi nachuna unga mara 3 naachia mtoto. Siwezi chuna mara 5 kama kitambo.
Kwanza mahali tulikuwa naenda na 30 bob, sasa hii inafaa tuende na 50 bob. Wananchi wanalia. Kusema ukweli, cause ukiambia mtu atoe pesa, atoe hata 50 mahali ya 30, anaona ni ngumu.
In Mali Makueni County, police officers were overpowered by protesters with a police car burnt and one person reportedly succumbing to his injuries. The situation was the same in Kisumu, Homa Bay, Mombasa, with officers on the radar for the excessive use of tear gas around schools in Nairobi County. However, the question remains, who is to blame for the demonstrations and the loss of lives? Ian Keitani, Lookuptv.
Let's continue with that particular story. Now, motorists had to make quick U-turns on both sides of the Nairobi Expressway and Mlolongo early morning yesterday after protesters started stoning them, damaging several cars. And the melee demonstrators vandalized metal grills separating the expressway. The damage, which led to 3 expressway toll stations are closed, has come under heavy criticism from political leaders. Azimio leader Raila Odinga has blamed the government for the mayhem that rocked protests yesterday and increased police shootings, assaults and harassment meted on citizens. Odinga's claimed that the failed Kamukunji rally followed intel about the government's plan to execute the Azimio leaders. Stanley Lugaria with the details.
Today was no easy day in office for the Azimio Brigade, as plans did not go in tandem with the initial strategy of making it to the Kamukunji grounds. Azimio flag bearer Raila Odinga now says the coalition received intelligence reports of armed criminals who had been assigned to line up as police officers with orders to maim, attack on Azimio leaders, shoot, assault and harass peaceful and armed picketers.
Yesterday, we were at Kenyatta Market. We were able to have lunch and hold impromptu meeting with the people that ended peacefully because there were no police. All our engagements are peaceful until the police show up. Late last night, we received intelligence of a most heinous plan by Kenya Kwanza to ferry armed goons who would attack peaceful attendees of our rally in Kamkunji. These goons had expressed orders to shoot directly into the crowd while enjoying police protection. In order to protect our people and avert more injury and loss of lives, we have taken the strategic decision not to proceed with the rally at Kamkunji grounds this afternoon.
Raila reiterated for the need of bipartisan talks, reconstitution of IEBC, insisting that the demonstrations won't stop until President comes out clear to address the key issues raised by the coalition and its followers, including the repeal of Finance Act 2023 to reduce the cost of living.
Kenyans have come out in their numbers in eastern, northeastern, coast, Nyanza, Central, Western, Rift Valley, and Nairobi. As we had said, Kenyans returned in the second wave of new masses, on board in search for better life for themselves. People are determined to decide for themselves how they are going to shape their day to lives, and now that they have been abandoned by their leaders. People have come out even in the most remote parts of the country to express their displeasure with the Ruto regime.
Raila has hailed the nationwide demonstrators who turned up in their numbers insisting that the demonstrations will not end soon unless the government acts.
This time around, there's no moving on until Ruto shows a readiness to listen to and respect the people. People deserve a deal, not bullets and tear gas.
Raila has underscored the task ahead of the coalition in realizing their set goals of ensuring the government lowers the cost of living.
We will shortly communicate the third wave and the next course of action.
Stanley Lugaria, Lookuptv, Nairobi.
Now, a day after Transport Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen suspended the implementation of the new NTSA regulations, long-distance truck drivers and matatu operators proceeded on strike, paralyzing transport in several parts of the country. The drivers have decried new regulations that require them to undergo mandatory annual retraining and installation of security cameras in their vehicles, saying this will hurt the transport industry. Henry Tende with more details.
Bus stations across several towns in the country remained empty for the better part of Wednesday as long-distance drivers and matatu operators downed their tools over the new NTSA regulations. In Bungoma County, drivers parked their vehicles, paralyzing public transport as they blamed the government of trying to kill the transport industry.
Lile jambo ambalo Murkomen anaambia madereva wetu na sisi watu wa matatu, tunachukua kidude fulani akina maana sijui ni biashara ya nani ati tuweke katika gari.
Mimi na ujuzi wa miaka 30. Ukinirudisha darasani, je, pale darasani naenda kufanya nini? Cha pili, mtu akifanya ajali, mbona asichukuliwe aende ashtakiwe, waangalie the nature of the accident.
Similar scenes played out in Nairobi. Here at Afya Center, a stage that usually enjoys a beehive of activities as travelers seek services to different parts of the country away from the city, was deserted. Few drivers who reported on duty, counting losses as a result of reduced volume of travelers.
Hakuna kazi inaendelea, abiria wako, so tumeadhirika tu kwa kukosa customers.
Ukiangalia mambo hii inaambiwa mambo ya license kurudi shule hivyo si poa, na ndio maana tuna haso. Kwa hivyo tungeomba at least rais atuangalie sana, atuondolee hiyo mambo, unaona, na kama ni mafuta atuangalie.
Tunaumia kwa hii mgomo sababu mwenye gari mwingine hata ni deni amechukua alipe hii gari. So saa zile tunaenda kuitisha hizo pesa ama hiyo majukumu ma serikali inasema tufanye, inakuwa ngumu kwetu.
This is Nanyoki. Believe it or not, drivers and their conductors have converted this bus stage into a sporting field. There are no vehicles anywhere, as is usually the norm.
Stage ya Nanyuki leo hakuna magari iko hata moja. In fact vijana wote wako, hata wa bodaboda wote wako kwa kiwanja wakipiga mpira. Sasa imetani ikawa stadium.
Na dereva ni Mwenyezi Mungu, kwa sababu tangu nianze kwa miaka 37 sijawahi fanya ajali na ningali ninaendelea na hiyo kazi.
Kurudi shule sio shida. Shida ni kurudi shule na kuanguka. Hakuna mwenye rudi shule anafaulu. Na ukianguka pesa zinaenda juu.
Hii serikali tulikuja kuisagua asubuhi mapema tukijua itasimama na hustler. Na sisi ni tuko at the part of the hustler. Sisi ni mahustler. Kwa hivyo hata leo tumeenda hasara kubwa, hatujui tutaelekea wapi.
Travelers who were caught up in the mix expressing their frustrations.
Kutoka hapa paka Kitale ilikuwa 300 ama 350. Lakini sasa hivi naambiwa inaenda paka 600. Kuna magari mengine 700 na hayo magari yenyewe hayapatikani. Sasa tunashindwa, tutatembea hapa mpaka Kitale, utafika saa ngapi?
Nimekuja huku Kakamega kwa interview, nikakosa kurudi juu ya mgomo. Sasa kesho nahitajika class, niko na mtihani kesho. Sasa nimekwama huku, nimeshindwa nifanyeje.
Matatu Owners Association has since called off the strike. One will hope normal business will resume. Henry Tende, Lookuptv.
Let's introduce the next conversation like this. Putting some reactions on our live feed online, that is at Lookuptv on Twitter. This is what Jen Chalo is saying this morning. Mama mboga, msee wa mkokoteni, bodaboda, msee wa mjengo, watu wa kuuza mtumba and all other business people depend on their day-to-day operations to make a living. Your maandamano has made them not work today. Their kids are sleeping hungry today. They might not afford rent due to the same. Kids have not gone to school and teachers have deadlines to meet. Look, crippling operations in the city and other parts of the country is doing no good. And that's exactly how we are going then to introduce the next part of our conversation right here on the Morning Drift. The question being, where are we in as regards these demonstrations in the country? Or can I call them the unrelenting demonstrations from the Azimio side? This morning, we're going to be joined by Justina Wamai and Ojuka, who's going to walk into the studio shortly. And after that, get into the conversation. Good morning.
Infinity Industrial Park is one of the largest private industrial parks located along Eastern Bypass, Nairobi, which provides modern infrastructure for smooth operations for industries and business enterprises. Infinity Industrial Park offers world-class amenities and facilities with wide roads, a police station, a power substation, fire station, public transport stage, hospital, and shopping mall. In addition, Infinity Industrial Park also offers CCTV cameras, 24-hour private armed security patrol, sewer, water, fiber optic cable, and 3-phase power connection, added to public utility, canteen, and dining areas. Sail on the golden opportunity to invest in Infinity Industrial Park, fully serviced warehouses at a special price of 3,569 Kenyan shillings per square foot. For more inquiries, visit our website infinityindustrialpark.com.
The future is hands-on, and Sensei College is at the front line of technical institutes in Kenya, offering practical and skill-based courses accredited by all concerned bodies, TVETA, NTSA and NITA. Sensei College offers driving and plant operator, cosmetology, fashion and design, mechanics, hydroponics and irrigation, installation, building construction, hospitality, photography and video production, electrical and electronics repairs, and ICT courses. Get free plant operator training when you enroll for plant mechanics, free driving when you enroll for motor vehicle mechanics, and free riding when you enroll for motorcycle mechanics. The requirement is an ID only, with intakes every first week of the month. We have 2 campuses in Nakuru and Nairobi. We provide meals and accommodation. Sensei College. My skills, my future.
Hi, and welcome to Tujenge Home. Your #1 show when it comes to all things architecture, real estate, property development, interior design. You get it right here on Tujenge Home. When the food is ready.
You want to serve them?
Dinner is served. Yeah. Let's go. Let's go.
Beautiful, wonderful, glorious. We are having the show that we share entitled Shepherd Voice.
I'm waiting for you to get me to Kenya. That's what I'm waiting
for you.
God is the source of every blessings that flow into your life.
And I know that God is going to bless you and to do a new thing.
Pray, 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 pray.
Are you a junior secondary school, a college, a TVET institution or a university and you want to advertise your intake? Book now and advertise with us today on both Lookuptv and all our digital platforms. Call us today on 011 0430 158, 011 0430 158 or email us on sales@lookuptv.co.ke.
Welcome back to the Morning Drift. My name is Simba Elijah Charles Kiage. Let's begin our conversation this morning, and we do know exactly how we're going to end it. It's essentially looking at exactly what happened yesterday in the country and asking the question, to what end? Because that's what every leader today is asking in the country. If you look at your papers today, we did essentially look at how the dailies covered the protests in the country, and it is a sad morning to say that indeed lives were lost yesterday out of the nationwide protests. And that's not something that is really good for us to open a conversation with, but it is right here with us. Raila Amolo Odinga, who had announced that they're going to have the Kamkunji rally yesterday, cancelled the rally, and this was his sentiment, that he knew, or somebody else told him, that indeed his rally was going to be infiltrated by the government that wanted to assassinate part of the Azimio leadership. So, just like we opened this morning, before I introduce fully the panel that is going to join us this morning, I would again look online and see exactly what majority of you spoke about the demos yesterday. And this is exactly what Mutahi Ngugi is talking about this morning, and this is what he said. And I'll play the voice, the lone voice of the wilderness. Give Ruto a chance. I worked for Uhuru Kenyatta and his job was hard. If Ruto fails, let the people deal with him ever so harshly in a 2027, but give the damn guy a chance. This is what the rest of you are talking about here, and this is what Dr. Boni Khalwale is talking about this morning, and this is what they're saying. Every person has the right, mark the word, peacefully, that's what he's saying, where peacefully means doing something quietly, peacefully, without violence, and number two, unarmed. Goes right ahead and to quote Article 37 of the Constitution, where they're saying assembly, demonstration, picketing, and petition. Every person has the right, peacefully and unarmed, to assemble, to demonstrate, to picket, and to present petitions to public authorities. And then that's how we start this morning. Good. So, let me then introduce the panel that is joining us this morning to take us through the entire of our conversation. I'm joined by a man who has been quite elusive this morning, and I would introduce him once the time comes. Okinda Ojuka, who's the SG Green Congress Party of Kenya. I'm also joined by Justina Mwamai, who's a political commentator. Good, Justina, let me begin with you this morning. If indeed we look at the events that happened yesterday, and this is what the Azimio side is saying. Look, our rally did not even happen. So do not tell us that we protested. We did not yesterday. That what we witnessed in 20 counties were Kenyans cognizant of the fact that the high cost of living is becoming a problem, and some of the decisions that this government is making in the transport sector as well was some that Kenyans are saying no to. In a nutshell, the azimio coalition is removing themselves from what we witnessed yesterday. Do they have a point, Justina?
From the onset, I want to declare that I'm neither in Azimio nor in Kenya Kwanza, so I'm giving an opinion as a third voice in this country.
Yes.
Azimio have no point. They have no backing to tell us that, because we were watching the news and people are saying what Baba is saying, tutafanya Kenya Baba anasema. So he might try to really absorb himself from the whole mess. But what his supporters on the ground were saying is that they were doing it for him. And let me tell Kenyans that I have really been observing the conversation. And true, Kenya Kwanza is failing the country in terms of punitive economic, regulations and things that are not making sense. Yes. I am in the transport sector, and my stock is fuel, so to speak. When I fuel my machine, the money that I'm going to recover from the fuel was my stock, initial stock. So someone might have a shop, but my stock is fuel. So I'm aggrieved. And that is why I'm telling the government, in as much as you cannot copy the ideas of another regime, sometimes you look at what has worked. The subsidies by Uhuru Kenyatta were working perfectly. Yes. At this point, I'm sure Ruto will not do what Raila is telling him. Maybe what was he saying about the finance bill? To reject it in totality. Yeah. But we can see what has worked previously. Yes. The subsidies have worked. Let him introduce them back, because even globally fuel cost has gone up. We just need to feel like there's some comfort. And remember, we are an economy driven by fuel. So back to Azimio, they have no point, and Baba has no point. And I want to remind Kenyans, 2018, when Baba went to shake Uhuru Kenyatta's hand, even his running mate Kalonzo never knew. In fact, I've started seeing the signs. When people are posted on the ground, you see Martha in Meru on a boda. Maybe Baba is trying to just be elusive and run away, and telling us that he had intelligence. Let me tell you, Baba is unable to control his people right now. And he's really trying to tell them, guys, stop the mandamano. But his people have been telling us, even on social media, they say that if Baba, you say we don't go to State House, mimi nitaenda myself. So he has brought up this monster, now he's unable to control, and he's looking for opportunity to blame people. Yes. Needless to say, high unemployment is making people agitated. People are not engaged. So you'll see that people are taking this as a moment of catharsis. Yesterday I was caught up in the mandamano on the road. When police are putting out this fire, someone else is starting a fire there. We are on traffic. And then when they run to put out that one, they come back. The guys are putting up another fire. So for Kenyans, it's like it's a joke. Forgetting the fact that somebody who buys, let me not speak about the investors, a local mwananchi, a mama mboga, who has closed shop yesterday, will not get her daily bread because there was mandamano. And we are seeing even in the newspapers that businesses, and let's not talk about the investors, let's talk about the MSMEs, the local businesses that we all benefit from. If it's mboga, if it's petrol, even look at fuel stations. Guys were closing up. So I think what Baba should realize is that he has brought up a monster now that he's unable to control. He might have even been paid off, assuming what happened in 2018, and he's trying to get a way out, and now he's blaming government. Yes. But both of them, Kenya Kwanza and Azimio, yes, have failed this country terribly.
Pretty much. I'll be coming back to you. This particular article that Boni Khalwale is quoting this morning, Article 37, the right to demonstrate, picket and assemble and even represent a petition. I'll be coming back to you on that, on who exactly we should be blaming this morning, because it's a sad note that we're starting that majority of demonstrations that were happening yesterday were violent and Kenyans lost their lives. Ojuka, how are you doing, sir?
Fine, bro.
Happy to have you around, man. Let's get into it. Yes. That the Azimio coalition is telling us this morning, not us, we were not allowed, or we cancelled our rally. So whatever is happening in the country is devoid of our call because we were not allowed, or we felt like it was not okay for us to meet yesterday because we got the intel that we could have been assassinated had we gone right ahead with it. So do not blame us for what you're saying in the country. Those are Kenyans who are single-handedly going out to tell you that the way you're running this country is the wrong way. Do you agree?
First of all, I'm a sad man because we lost the lives of common Kenyans. Yes. And we send heartfelt condolences to them. Back to your point, I think Azimio team has lost its edge because this is the man first of all, President William Samoei Ruto has never implemented any tax regime, any financial regime. He's still operating under regime of the previous government. We should give him time to operate, right?
They're saying they went right ahead to come up with a Finance Act.
Yes.
Which, according to the azimio coalition, they said, well, hold on.
You know, I've heard my sister Justin is talking about the subsidies. You can't build a nation with subsidy. Those are temporary. Those are short-term towards crisis. Can you go back to Nigeria, for instance? It's the same. We're in global economic crisis. Can you go to America? They even close up the banks. So I think the best azimio team can do to Kenya Kwanza or to Kenyan people is to give Ruto time to work.
When they're telling you that majority of the people outside yesterday are Kenyans who are discontent with the way that the government is getting run, and Ojuka, that is 20 counties in total that were rioting yesterday, would you say that the Kenyans who were on the streets want to give Ruto time? That is 20, almost half of the country was rioting yesterday.
But you see, my brother Elijah,
yes,
the demo which was planned by yesterday has got nothing to do with an ordinary Kenyan. It's there to serve the interest of the big men. We saw it in 2018 to 2022 when the so-called handshake brothers, before handshake government came, right?
Yes, yes.
We saw the same thing. I think, in my humble opinion, right, I think these are the people who have lost, they have lost, I mean, it's a group which has lost its tails and heads. It's a mongrel. These people, they are not there to serve the basic interests of the Kenyan people. I saw the man I respect most, Raila Amolo Odinga, in town, right? Now he's no longer talking about the other life in Kenya. He's still talking about the server. We need to give the best time, the humble time for President Ruto to serve the Kenyan people.
How long, just before I cross over to Justin Awamai,
yes,
Ojuka, what we say, let's give him time.
Yes.
So the questions that Kenyans are talking about this morning, and I'm going to read for you, one submission of one Miguna yesterday when he was reading about the situation in the country. And this is what he said. And I'm going to read it to you right now, so that indeed you can then read into it and say, well, indeed, maybe he has a point, and that's why majority of Kenyans could be on the street. And this is what they're saying. Good. That it's indeed true that Kenyans are angry and hungry.
True.
It's also true that the cost of living is gone high in the country.
True.
But what is true, again, is that maybe the Kenya Kwanza administration has failed to either communicate or implement strategies that are going to alleviate majority of the sufferings of these Kenyans. It's a long submission. But that's what I'm saying. Do you think the failure here then is proper communication or proper implementation? Majority of Kenyans are feeling, yes, run the economy, but do not touch this.
You know what we fail to understand?
Yes.
One, we need to be so honest to Kenyan people. What we are facing now is not, Kenya Kwanza problem. It was generated by the handshake brothers. I get the point. Two,
Ojuka,
I understand.
Ojuka, I'm sorry to cut you short this morning. Up to what point is this administration going to stop referring to the previous administration?
But you see, the government activities are process. Those are process. You give them time.
Do you think that's what makes Kenyans angry, Ojuka?
No.
That every time you stand...
Let me tell you, my brother.
Yes.
Let's be honest, right? We understand there's dysfunctional service board. Public service, right? But since when? Can we give this guy time? Can we give him time, the ample time, to work for Kenyan people? This is the man who inherited a broke government, damn broke government, right? The handshake brothers, interfere with the Kenyan government. It's in the public domain. Can we give him time to fail so that we put all blames on him? Imagine there's a government which still operate under the previous, financial regime. Really? Can we give him time? William Samoei Ruto inherited a broke government, damn broke. I mean, the government which overborrowed. It's a public domain. I mean, the previous government was busy selling the BBI thing and Raila Odinga sweets in streets, bro. It's a public domain, bro. Let's give this guy time to work for Kenyan people.
I want you to quickly respond to whatever Ujuka is saying, because the conversation essentially has just begun now on this particular area. Before I tell you what majority of Kenyans are also talking about this morning, let's first start with one, Dr. Boni Khalwale. Justina, are we going to sit here and say, yes, we will allow you to go to the street, but if something wrong happens, Justina, we turn back around and say, you see, we told you, your demonstrations are not peaceful. Shouldn't we as Kenyans be asking the police this morning, why did demonstrations turn out unlawful yesterday? Is that not the question that we should be asking Boni Khalwale, who's blaming majority of Kenyans for being violent yesterday? Shouldn't he be asking the questions to the relevant authorities who are supposed to come and protect the rights of the Kenyans who were demonstrating yesterday, Justina?
You caught me on phone. I was checking which party Ujuka is in.
Yes.
Green Party is not a member of Kenya Kwanza. I don't know whether they have a merger with Kenya Kwanza, because it's really leaning on Kenya Kwanza. But let me say this on the issue of wait, you'll note it down. So Article 37, there's a threshold. You must be peaceful, you must be unarmed. What I saw yesterday on the expressway on Mlolongo, there were no police on site. I did not see police at that point. I think they came later after the distraction.
Yes.
And maybe I'm tempted to think that we do not mine steel in this country, but we export steel. So I'm feeling maybe people who are in scrap business took advantage, and they're the ones who vandalized that. But remember, it was during maandamano that had been called by Azimio. So the threshold of peace and being unarmed failed on that aspect.
So who should we question on that?
We are going to question the Azimio. That is a fact. In fact, I'm even very worried for the police, Simba, because I've seen many police have been hurt. Remember, they're not covered under NHIF. So I'm curious to know whether the insurance is covering even those the injuries the police have been subjected to. Right?
Justina, should we be blaming Azimio for demonstrations turning out violent instead of us blaming the relevant authorities who are supposed to be out to protect the demonstrators and the properties of Kenyans?
Look, the example I've given was on Expressway.
That's it.
There were no cops on site. So there was no, in fact, yesterday my argument was, police, try and stay away. Let us see, you know, some things you have to do experiment. Whether it's true the cops are the reason there's violence or Mandamano ends up with violence.
Yes.
On Mombasa Road Expressway, there were no cops on site. So what happened?
Hence the failure of the police. Would you say
when
that?
there are cops on site, we are told that the police are the ones who brought the destruction of property and violence. When there are no cops on site, it's still happening. This goes back to the Kenyan behavior. Simba, people end up having a party here, and then the next minute people are fighting. You guys were having fun, people are fighting. So when I look at the whole conversation, Kenyans get overly excited about these things. So they're like, as long as akuna ngori, let me say that, Kenyans are not feeling like this mandamano. So either way, when cops are on site or not on site, Kenyans, we are not guarded. We want to do things, we want to destroy property, we want to be seen on TV that we are doing things, and we are forgetting that. Let me make it clear. We were told that the port of Dar es Salaam is now more preferable. The moment you close A104, Mombasa Road to Nairobi, and A109, Mombasa to Malaba, Nairobi to Malaba.
Yes.
Why should someone choose to go to port of Dar es Salaam? We are here saying that we are looking for money for this government. We are trying to bring back investors. We want to bring back port operations to 100%. But we are the same ones who are sabotaging. So the moment this mandamano comes in, I see it as economic sabotage. That is on the part of Azimio. We've seen matatu drivers. They were demonstrating peacefully. They were playing games. What they disrupted was the transport angle of it. But we didn't see anyone fighting or beating up anyone or destruction of property. So the police cannot be blamed because it has been experimented, tried and tested that whether they're on ground or not.
Yes.
tabia za Wakenya will always come up and emerge.
If that is in the public domain, then you would like to think that the people should be acting properly, Justina. It's the police themselves. Because if you do know that tabia ya Kenyans inakuja hivyo, then why were you not on the streets to stop that? Because you are supposed to go out today and protect the properties of Kenyans who were or not part of the demonstrations, as opposed to the leaders now. We should be looking for answers from them on exactly what communication should be going to the police every time Kenyans riot, as opposed to blaming Kenyans. What about these Kenyans whose property have been destroyed? Who are they going to blame?
And that is why when Azimio said that they're going to report, they're reporting the government to ICC and IG Committee.
That's it.
My question was, where are we going to report Azimio for the destruction of property? Remember this thing, Raila has brought up, or he has breastfed a monster now that he can't control. It's now out of his hands. So if Kenyans, this goes back to individual Kenyans, who are you rioting for? Whose brief are you holding? Are you holding brief? In fact, even tell civil society right now, whose brief are you holding? If you people pay your people, last Friday, civil society was doing it. And it ended up again violent, and it was blamed on the police. But my question is, whose brief are you holding? If you're going to pay people, you're going to give people money. At the end of it all, someone will be given 500 shillings or whatever because they were on mandamano. So where is this money coming from? So aren't you holding brief for the person who is funding or giving you per diem to be on mandamano? It goes back to Kenyans. Think, ask yourself, whose brief am I holding? Because yesterday, did unga go back to 200? Did it leave 250 per kg, 200 shillings? No. This issue of unga goes back to the systems. Simba right now, a bucket of, or rather a kasuku of peas is going for 70 shillings. It was the other day 250 shillings. What does it say? Because of rain, we now have food. Potatoes are not cheaper. So even when government tells us that they've given us fertilizer, they didn't give us fertilizer for potatoes, they didn't give us fertilizer for peas, but at least there's food, there's abundance of food. So the strategy right now government should be focusing on moving away from rain-fed agriculture. How I wish Azimio would take a petition in the National Assembly or Senate to see how, in fact Senate, because agriculture is devolved. Senate, they should be giving us idea on the floor of the Senate, telling us what they expect government to do. But inciting people, growing a monster that has been breastfed, it has come full, it's full blown. Raila cannot control.
Just before I cross over to you, Ojuka, just now, when the Azimio coalition tell you that we are Kenyans, why aren't we looking at them as fellow Kenyans who also have the right to call on their fellow Kenyans to go to the street to riot? Why do we give them special treatment when they're telling you, no, we don't want it? We are Kenyans, so when we go out to the streets, come, ride, and protect us. So they also have a right to ask the government why demonstrations turned out to be unpeaceful yesterday.
Simba, you're acting like you're not in this country.
And
I'm not holding brief for anyone, but I'm just going to be fair to everybody. When we see police, like on Friday, there was police presence. What was happening? Politicians on the mic saying, Nyenye police, you're here. And police are there to protect. So when they're not there, again, it's an issue. We need to sit down and have an honest conversation in this country. True, Ruto cannot say that he doesn't have money. He's been globe-trotting. We are seeing the money he's spending, and they want Kenyans to think in terms of logistics. The moment Ruto leaves State House, that logistics cost is costing us taxpayers' money. So we cannot be told that the government doesn't have money. It's only that they're spending on things that are not a priority. Right now, we want priority spending. That is what even Azimio should be questioning. We want a statement on the debt. But they cannot say that because they were in handshake government and they maybe walikula, we don't know. So they're trying to divert issues, bringing up issues, and they're forgetting that the common Mwananchi has noticed that Azimio is not even fighting for them. And that is why you see a bitter Kenyan is saying, I had to close my shop yesterday. And it's not a must, and they want people to realize there's something called inclusivity and diversity. Simba, if you choose to go for mandamano, don't force me to close my business if that's not my style.
Ojuka, take 2 minutes to answer this question, because we really want to get that particular point from Justina. Azimio Coalition is telling you, well, guys, our rally that was planned for yesterday, we cancelled it. So take us out of these demonstrations. When we are talking about the deaths that happened yesterday, when we're talking about majority of the skirmishes that we did recognize in parts of the country in those demonstrations, take us out. Ask the relevant authorities why they failed to stop the goons who came into our demos that we call for across the country. Do they have a point?
Yeah, where I agree with my sister.
Yes.
I respect Justine a lot because she's one of the female those who became running mate in the last election. Raila Odinga has built a monster. I mean, I don't need to be personal. Like, the Azimio group has brought a monster that they cannot manage to control. That's true, Justin, you're right.
Ojuka,
yes.
Even when we say that they built a monster that they do not know how to control.
Yes.
Whose responsibility is it to control Kenyan citizens?
Both,
why are we giving it on
you
one Raila Amolo Odinga and there's mere coalition Justina?
You can't build a monster that you can't control. That's so,
without running away from the why. This monster we're talking about, are these not Kenyans, Ojuka?
Let me tell you,
yes.
Simba, we are all Kenyans. Let me tell you. And I want to go back from 2013.
Okay.
You know, President Mwai Kibaki is known as the best performing president, right? But he took the government when the government was broke as this. But Moi the senior was so responsible as a political chieftain.
Yes.
When Uhuru Kenyatta took the president from, the leadership from President Kibaki, Kibaki handed over the leadership to President Uhuru when Uhuru could pay 18 shillings out of 100 to debt. Are you getting the point?
Yes.
Uhuru Kenyatta, with this brother, handed over the leadership to President William Ruto. When Ruto could pay, he's paying 70 shillings out of 100 to debt. Surely. I want to tell you something, my brother, so that you know the cost of these things. Out of 100 shillings, 15 shillings goes to counties, right? For you to run an economy, you do developments, you build roads, you use 35 shillings. That is around 50.
Mm-hmm.
You pay services, you pay civil servants, all of the rest, you use around 25 shillings.
Mm-hmm.
That is around 75.
Yes.
If you pay 70 shillings out of 100 to debts, you remain with negative what?
Mm-hmm.
Really, we need to be so honest.
Yes, Ojuka,
so that's what I'm saying.
I want you to hold your point
yes.
right there because I want us to come from a break. I still haven't got the answer that I'm seeking from you, Ojuka.
Yes.
Is that when there's mere coalition says, do not blame us. We are Kenyans, discontent like the rest of them. So when things turn wrong, don't look at us because you can't point me, Raila Amolo Odinga, Mother Karua, or any other person who was in that demo, point me to a video where I'm essentially destroying property or killing somebody. So ask the relevant people as to why this is happening in the country. Once we come back, I'll be seeking an answer from you. And let me also look at some of the comments that are coming in from our online community. Kimana Alex was saying the issue of giving Ruto time does not work. It is now almost 9 months and is still on appointments. When will he work? That's the question that Ojuka is getting asked this morning. We also have David Mbu there who's saying, good morning. The leaders are debating very well and I'm happy that they are saying the truth as it is. Mandamano is not the solution. Just because there were chaos and mayhem yesterday, did the cost of living go down? Raila and his team should embrace dialogue. All right, Kimani Alex comes back and says Ruto's job is to come up with policies not working. And Edward Juma was watching us this morning also saying you're a great liar. Speak the truth. How come you spend more from the same government? Thank you very much for online committee. Once we come back, then the conversation continues because one man then is at the center of all these demos because the question the majority of the leaders outside and within government are asking, up to what end? Once we come back.
The county government of Nyeri, with approval of His Excellency the Governor, Mutahi Kahiga, has granted 100% waiver on all interest and penalty accrued on all outstanding land rates. Property owners in Nyeri County are advised to take advantage of the waiver period that starts from 30th June 2023 and ends on 28th July 2023 on condition that the principal rates are paid in full. Property owners are advised to obtain invoices from the Sub-County Revenue Office where the property is located and make payment by depositing cash or banker's check to a bank account. Take notice that once the waiver period lapses, the county government will institute all necessary measures to recover any unpaid rates and penalties, including repossessing the property.
The future is hands-on, and Sensei College is at the front line of technical institutes in Kenya, offering practical and skill-based courses accredited by all concerned bodies, TVETA, NTSA and NITA. Sensei College offers driving and plant operator, cosmetology, fashion and design, mechanics, hydroponics and irrigation, installation, building construction, hospitality, photography and video production, electrical and electronics repairs, and ICT courses. Get free plant operator training when you enroll for plant mechanics, free driving when you enroll for motor vehicle mechanics, and free riding when you enroll for motorcycle mechanics. The requirement is an ID only, with intakes every first week of the month. We have 2 campuses in Nakuru and Nairobi. We provide meals and accommodation. Sensei College. My skills, my future.
Are you a junior secondary school, a college, a TVET institution or a university, and you want to advertise your intake? Book now and advertise with us today on both Lookuptv and all our digital platforms. Call us today on 011 0430 158, 011 0430 158, or email us on sales@lookuptv.co.ke.
Hi, and welcome to Tujenge Home. Your number one show when it comes to all things architecture, real estate, property development, interior design. You get it right here on Tujenge Home. When the food is ready.
You want to serve them?
Dinner is served.
Let's go. Let's go.
Kana na ukulima ili ujifundishe mengi uweze kujua ukulima pia ni mali. Kumbuka kipindi ni nini? Kipindi ni ukulima ni mali na Manjoro upate hela.
All of you who are watching us online, thank you very much. We are still there at Lookuptv across all your social media platforms. Now, just before we went on break, I did ask Ojuka on who the blame really should go to once we see the chaos that were witnessed in the country yesterday. Now, 3 people lost their lives yesterday during the anti-government demonstrations in Mlolongo, Machakos County. Protests were also witnessed in various parts of Nairobi, with property worth millions destroyed as Kenyans took to the streets to decry the high cost of living. The protests come in the wake of Azimio la Umoja leader Raila Odinga calling on Kenyans to protest against President William Ruto's administration, which he has termed as illegitimate. Let's take a look at that story.
Mlolongo, Machakos County, anti-government protesters took to the streets to voice their frustrations against the government, as urged by Azimio leader Raila Odinga. However, the protests took a different turn after 3 people lost their lives with dozens of others injured after a battle ensued between the protesters and the police officers, with the police castigated for the use of excessive force. In Kisii County, the law enforcers engaged in running battles with protesters after supporters of Governor Simba and those of Majority Whip Silvana Sosoro engaged in a fight before the police intervened. Former Kisii Deputy Governor Josh Mangi has urged Raila Odinga to tone down the demonstrations and let the government deliver, insisting that the cost of living will not be brought down through demonstrations.
No way you can reduce the cost of unga through maandamano. Instead, what you're doing, you're increasing the cost, because people today, there's no business going on. Our children did not go to school today. People are not even doing farming today because there's maandamano. Only one way of reducing the cost of unga is by producing more maize. And that's why I support the president 100%, that we subsidize fertilizer so that we promote production of maize.
In Nakuru County, police were forced to use tear gas canisters after the protesters took to the streets. Most businesses in the area remained closed, while others were looted, with the protesters calling out President William Ruto for the high cost of living, contrary to what he promised during the campaigns.
Alafu sasa hawa watu wa Zakayo wanakuja na hizi silaha, wanataka kutuua kwa sababu tunaandamana kwa haki yetu. Hatutawacha kuandamana.
Unga imepanda bei, hata sufuria hadi saizi inatoboka. Umeona? Sasa mimi naomba bei ya unga iteremke. Amen. Mnasikia? Hata nyinyi mkirudi huko juu mwambie mimi nachuna unga mara 3 naachia mtoto. Siwezi chuna mara 5 kama kitambo.
Kwanza mahali tulikuwa naenda na 30 bob, sasa hii inafaa tuende na 50 bob. Wananchi wanalia kusema ukweli. Cause ukiambia mtu atoe pesa, atoe hata 50 mahali ya 30, anaona ni ngumu.
In Emali, Makueni County, police officers were overpowered by protesters, with a police car burnt and one person reportedly succumbing to his injuries. The situation was the same in Kisumu, Homa Bay, Mombasa, with officers on the radar for the excessive use of tear gas around schools in Nairobi County. However, the question remains, who is to blame for the demonstrations and the loss of lives? Ian Keitani, Lookuptv.
That's exactly how then those particular demonstrations ended up in the country yesterday. Ojuka, today, if you're going to look directly into the eyes of the Azimio coalition leader Raila Amolo Odinga and tell him you're the reason why those 3 people lost their lives at Mlolongo yesterday are in the headlines today, would you take him anywhere just because of that? He will tell you no.
But Article 37 allows free picket and peaceful demonstration, right? But it doesn't allow you to interfere with anybody who has got nothing to do with your business. I get the point.
Yes.
And I think, to me, all blame should be on Azimio leaders. Yes.
If you listen to this last protester was spoken today and said, well, listen, this guy's for Zakayo, and the president knows, Kenyans have called him Zakayo, so we're just going to use that word here today in the morning. Last word was Zakayo.
I don't know Zakayo.
Yeah, Zakayo, you don't know. The president knows that it's called Zakayo. He actually knows that majority of people call him Zakayo. Anyway,
I don't know Zakayo.
We're going to go on. He said, watu wa Zakayo, alafu wanakuja wananiambia wameongezea bei ya mafuta. Saizi nikaambia mtu niongezee mbao kwa place ya 30, mtu anakataa. All right? That indeed, whatever policies that he's trying to introduce right now, those are the ones the majority of Kenyans are saying no to. All right? So, Ojuka, if Kenyans are saying no, then isn't it the right time for the president to respond? Is that not a clear indication that this time that he's asking for is not what Kenyans want right now?
It's true, Phil, is the price of fuel has gone high.
Yes.
It's true.
Yes.
But it's not a Kenya Kwanza, problem. Can you go to TZ, the neighboring country?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is it okay for me to bring to your attention that currently as it is, in the East African region, we are leading in terms of the cost of fuel. In fact, we've even gone beyond what some states in the US sell, a liter of fuel at. Even in South Africa, we are way ahead of them right now. 40% of the cost of fuel is just purely on taxes in the country.
But Simba, you're becoming so dishonest to Kenyan people because you compare the Kenyan economy with the US economy.
Is it okay for us to compare it with our peers in the region?
No, we can't compare Kenyan
Go to TZ, the same TZ that you're talking about, the same Uganda that you're talking about, the same Rwanda we're talking about, we're now way ahead of them. We were at par before the introduction of the 16% VAT, but now we are way beyond what they are.
You know,
is that what makes Kenyans angry, Ojuka, this
We
morning?
need to understand the cause of the crisis we're facing now as Kenyans.
Yes.
The crisis we're facing as Kenyans as we speak was caused by the previous government.
That's the same question.
The government...
Is that going to make Kenyans angry? Ojuka, you right now, it is 9 months into office, isn't it? When are you going to stop talking about the previous administration and talk about your administration? Then, every time somebody from Kenya Kwanza gets a microphone to speak, they are still reminding Kenyans that, hi, this is not our problem. Guys, this is not our problem. We didn't cause this. Are you going to sit there, Ojuka, and pretend that, one, President William Ruto was not in the previous regime?
It's like you judging President Kibaki, who performed well when he was a VP. you were doing injustice. Let me tell you, my brother, the CEO and the de facto Minister of Finance is president. So when Uhuru was the president in the previous government, then you can't put all blames on President William Samoei Ruto.
Well, what do you think makes Kenyans angry, Ojuka?
Yes.
The 20 counties in the country that heeded Raila Amolo Odinga's call to go to the street. What do you think makes them angry?
Because of the high cost of living, which was not brought by Kenya Kwanza government. The Kenya Kwanza government is there to provide solution, amicable solution to Kenyan people.
Yeah.
Why don't we give them time to work for Kenyans?
So if Kenyans are telling you we are not going to give you time because the cost of living is unbearable, do you still turn around and tell them, well, you got to give us time because this is not our problem, because that's the communication that is coming from the Kenya Kwanza government? Which is what Miguna, by then, I'm sorry to cut you short, which is what Miguna is talking about this morning. That I feel it is a failure of communication that you, Ojuka, domiciled within the Kenya Kwanza government, every time you get a chance to speak, the best hit out for you is, guys, it's not our problem. It is the same people who are telling you right now about the cost of living that were trying to correct their mistakes. And every time you speak, you're telling Kenyans, you see that man, Raila Amolo Odinga, who's telling you to go back to the streets and riot? It was part of that problem.
But now,
so don't you think that's not a solution, Ojuka?
Simba Street can provide solution. Street protests can provide solution. Where on earth?
Regardless now, Ojuka.
I think, in my opinion,
yes.
my humble opinion, President, I can be in a position of foreseeing that President William Samoei Ruto will salvage the situation where we are now, if he can be given time to work for Kenya.
Yes, just before I cross over to Justina, are you aware that civil service unions conducted a survey or a poll in the country towards the reenactment of the Finance Bill into the Finance Act 2023, and 90% of Kenyans said we do not need or we do not want this finance bill?
The so-called group you mentioned before are being financed. We know the financials. I think, Simba, if you want to be so honest to Kenyan people, the protest cannot provide the solution to Kenya. I mean, the situation where we are now.
Yes.
We need to sit down as a community, as Kenyans, as Kenyan people, as leaders, to have an amicable dialogue. Because you see, if you see the leadership of, the top leadership of Azimio, these are the people who can be here in the future. So we don't know whether they are trying to destroy Kenya, because in future they won't be there.
Yes.
I think the man William Samoei Ruto, President William Samoei Ruto, is the best man ever, the best president ever, and I can compare him with Kibaki. And he's in a position to salvage the situation where we are now.
It's been 9 months.
Just 9 months. Operating under the previous regime.
Yes. Just let me... Yes. Ojuka is saying, look here. And this is the problem that majority of Kenyans keep on pointing out. And we've had it from the polls that we as Lookuptv have kept on conducting, that every time our government gets a chance to address our problems, they keep on referring to the previous regimes, and it's not our problem. We are trying to correct the mistakes of the previous regime. That some of the promises that they came into the government with were immediately negated upon taking over office. And in fact, they would essentially point them down to it. The taxes we're talking about right here, Justin Omai, one, President William Ruto is on record saying we are not going to add taxes on fuel. It's saying, well, we're not going to introduce new taxes. But right now, Kenyans are faced with a flurry of taxes. Some they've even said no to, blatantly, to one President, William Ruto. They're presenting, or the government is presenting this scenario of, we know, and we are telling you. And that's what Raila Amolo Odinga and the Azimio coalition is using to fill demonstrations across the country. That they're telling you that they know, but you're not feeling it. Do you think it's a problem of communication, Justina Omai? Is that what is bedefiling the Kenya Kwanza government right now?
It's a problem of how we vote. I remember there's a time Kenyans were saying, let us vote for Sonko because he's the one who's going to remove Kidero. And then what? You know, we are always conditioned to just think about the election. We forget about delivery. Who can deliver? So when Kenya Kwanza is saying that we are blaming the previous regime, let me tell Kenyans here today that it's a fight. We are not fighting a regime by William Ruto. We are going to fight the ruling class, because they are always circulating. If during Eurobond, Uhuru and Ruto were close.
Yes.
During handshake government, it was Uhuru and Raila. So it's about the ruling class. They're all there in the whole mess, and Kenyans are just supporting them. It depends on which side you are at a particular time. It's not a problem of communication. Communication is both verbal and non-verbal. And by that one was said by Miguna. And I told Miguna that to be in this government, he has applied for DPP position.
Yes.
CIS has said that they were giving up to 20 million, the least money, to get that position. So if Miguna, you've not given any money for the position, just know you're qualified. But wait, I told you to write down your points. You're going to punch holes. So if you've not given any money, just know that position is as good as gone.
Yes.
But remember, communication is both verbal and non-verbal.
Yes.
They're telling us there was no money. They're telling us they need to fundraise. They're telling us there's a debt.
Yes.
But you see the president going around the world, spending our money, having parties, going around, kukula raha. And then he's here telling us there's no money. Non-verbally, Kenyans are wondering, unatubeba ujinga. Don't tell us you're spending your personal money. You cannot be richer than the government of Kenya. So he has to also align to what he's saying and align to the reality on the ground. There is no way he's telling Kenyans to tax them for his own special benefits, for the CSS to buy houses, expensive houses, and don't tell me they have money. I mean, why didn't they buy those houses in Karen before they were CSS? So the communication here is that they're telling us one thing, but the reality on the ground, they're doing the opposite. And maybe I want us to start thinking differently. Are we free as a country from colonialism? The president went around talking about financing, about using the dollar.
Yes.
How sure are we? Because there's always a conspiracy cases that some superpowers will feel threatened by such things. Gaddafi has always spoken about Africa uniting. And maybe we don't know. Maybe some of this even unrest, the whole country, 20 counties, we don't know who is funding. So it's incumbent on the president to first forget about foreign policy of going out there. Can we first domesticate our foreign policy? Can we see what we can produce? What is our competitive advantage? What can we sell to our neighbors? There's no need of going to bring the Iranian president here, saying they're going to open a motor vehicle assembly in Mombasa. The cost of power is still up. There's still unemployment, taxes, corporate tax, and all those issues are affecting. And remember, our tax policy is not favorable for business.
Yes.
So maybe those are things that are on paper, Sarakasi, that is going to bring an industry here. But if they're investing, they're going to look out for what is the political stability, what are the tax regimes, what is the environmental conditions, what is the society, what the society is saying. Are Kenyans ready for that manufacturing plant? So let us first focus on internal issues. Internal issues first. I don't understand. He's saying he doesn't have money and he's always out of the country. He's always going around the whole country, trips, what, opening up, I don't know what. It's like his role now is ceremonial, just to be seen somewhere. He's supposed to direct strategy and policy. And the problem, I dare say, and I've always said, William Ruto has been seen to be a guy who wants to do everything. And remember how public sector works. If you show me when he Kimbelembele, I'll just leave my coat there, go do my other things. He has not even inspired the civil service to drive this agenda forward, because he wants to be the Mr. Show. I'm doing everything. He went to KRA, trying to show KRA, telling them and Kuwakosawa that you guys are not doing this. I mean, his role is to inspire confidence. His role is to make public institutions feel like, President, this is what we've studied, this is our expertise, this is what we are doing. But when he's seen to meddle even with the public sector, guys will just say, okay, fine, you do everything. And we know he cannot do everything. And again, his appointments, from the day he got into office up to today, you still see the president has appointed Fulani. When is he going to finish appointing positions so that the job is done? So I think, in as much as Azimio is on the ground, pretending that they're protecting the Kenyans and they're speaking for Kenyans, Kenya Kwanza has self-sabotaged.
Yes. Jukam, that indeed they are essentially self-sabotaging. Let's pick it from there.
First of all, where I disagree with my sister, Inspector Law.
Yes.
She's the first national leader who congratulated the President, William Samoei Ruto. That's true, I follow her. True, she cannot substantiate where the CS could pay 20 million for that position. It's a lie, right? Back to your point. I think Azimio has lost, the agenda, the opposition agenda to work for Kenyans. And now what they are trying to do is to sabotage the government. But you know, Ruto is a street man. President Ruto is not like Uhuru Kenyatta, who will look for them. I think...
Is that the failure? Is that the failure, Juka?
No, what failure?
Is that the failure that indeed I'm not going to look for you? Up to one point, because there's Azimio coalition is saying, well, these are indefinite demos that we have essentially started in the country now until further notice.
The first sentiment Ruto made when he resumed to the office was that he was ready to work with any leader who's ready to work for Kenyans.
But then you can't say that. But you can't say that and then say, well, it's not like Uhuru Kenyatta is not going to look for them, Ojuka.
But I mean, Simba, it's like you are not in Kenya, man.
No, I'm here with you. I just want to get the points from you, Ojuka, for the sake of the audience that listening to you this morning, because you're saying, well, Ruto is not like Uhuru Kenyatta. What Uhuru Kenyatta did, what Kibaki did, what Moi did, is essentially look for this one, Raila Amolo Odinga, and tell them we need to work together.
You know, the primary role of a president is to work for Kenyans.
And Raila Amolo Odinga, there's Azimio coalition, are they not Kenyans? Per definition,
they are
who
Kenyan
citizen is, isn't it?
It's true, they are Kenyans and Kenyan leaders, but they are trying to sabotage the government. The more you sabotage the government, you cause the crisis.
Who has more to lose, Ojuka, this morning? Even as we say, well, Raila Amolo Odinga is to blame for this, the Azimio coalition is to blame for this, is it not the man who's the custodian of our constitution right now, who's one Dr. President William Ruto?
I think, Simba, you are becoming so dishonest
to
Kenyan people. Because one, this is the man who formed a group to parliament, right?
Yes.
And is the appointing authority to Azimio team. We were ready to talk to them, engage them. What happened? They were not ready to talk in a discussion, bipartisan talk. At the same time, we know the financials of all the protests in Kenya, which we cannot say now.
Yes.
But we know. I think, in my opinion, my brother, Raila is a great man. We respect him. But he should give Ruto time to work for Kenyan people. Then when 2027 comes, then we shall talk from there.
So is that your Juka sitting there saying, well, give this administration 5 years, then look back and see exactly what they've done? Is that what you're saying? Because majority of Kenya is 5 years.
Give him time.
But your administration is saying 2 years. They're saying, well, give us 2 years. And it's this communication that has kept on changing. You and I do know very well the majority of the reasons why these demos are now very close to the heart of majority of Kenyans is to say, well, some of the promises are made is that once we place our Bibles down, and it is in notice, and you and I do agree that for the very first time, or it looked like it, Ojuka, that our election was run on manifestos. The majority of Kenyans voted on the promises that were given by both candidates.
Yes.
How is it true then that we will sit here and say, well, you see, guys, what I'd said in my manifesto after 100 days, just put it on the side, give me 2 years. And you're saying, well, guys, no, not even 2 years, give them 5 years. But Kenyans are telling you, we feel that indeed where you're starting from is what we don't want. At least do what you said within the first 100 days.
But you know, this is the government barely, just 9 months old.
Yes.
In the government, right? These are the people.
Yes. What did you say, so, Ojuka? What did they say prior to getting the office on the areas where majority of Kenyans were concerned? Number one, the cost of living in the country, cost of unga, isn't it? And the cost of and the level of taxation that we're talking about in this country. Is that not where they've started from? And is that not why then we'll say Kenyans are in the street because of that?
I've just watched the clip, right?
Yes.
Just before, right? People are talking about the price of unga, ikoju. But now the price of unga, when it became 230 in the previous government, where we had the handshake government. Are you getting the point? Two, you see these people, the Azimio team, these people are not fighting for Kenyan people. We know them. These are the people we've worked with. These people are fighting for their own interest. In 2018, we saw the same thing we are seeing now.
Yes.
Right? And we saw what happened when they formed a government. When they joined the government. So now President William Samoei Ruto is not ready to have a discussion of big men in the government, of oppositions. as my sister Justine is talking about. The main discussion for Kenyan people, for President William Ruto,
yes,
it should be all about Kenyan people, not for positions, not to serve the interest of the big men. We've gone to that time.
Pretty much.
Yes.
Justina, the next part of our conversation this morning, even as I'll give you a chance then to reply to whatever Juka's spoken about there, is on the reaction of the demonstrations yesterday. You look at majority of the azimio leaders, they're blaming the government for either abating crime yesterday in the demonstrations, and in one story that we're going to look at and then come talk about it later, is how motorists had to make quick U-turns on both sides of the Nairobi Expressway in Mnolongo early morning after protesters started stoning them, damaging several cars. In the melee, demonstrators vandalized metal grills separating the expressway. The damage, which led to 3 expressway toll stations closed, has come under heavy criticism from political leaders. Let's take a look at that story. Once we come back then, the particular question is going essentially to be asked to Justin Omai and Ojuka. Let's take a look.
Infinity Industrial Park is one of the largest private industrial parks located along Eastern Bypass, Nairobi, which provides modern infrastructure for smooth operations for industries and business enterprises. Infinity Industrial Park offers world-class amenities and facilities with wide roads, a police station, a power substation, fire station, public transport stage, hospital, and shopping mall. In addition, Infinity Industrial Park also offers CCTV cameras, 24-hour private armed security patrol, sewer, water, fiber optic cable, and 3-phase power connection, added to public utility, canteen, and dining areas. Sail on the golden opportunity to invest in Infinity Industrial Park fully serviced warehouses at a special price of 3,569 Kenyan shillings per square foot. For more inquiries, visit our website infinityindustrialpark.com.
Kipindi ni ukulima ni mali na manjoro. Every Sunday saa 10. Jiunge na mimi ili nikufundishe mengi kuhusu ukulima wa nyanya, wa mboga, kuweka ng'ombe, kila kitu ambayo inahusikana na ukulima, ili ujifundishe mengi uweze kujua ukulima pia ni mali. Kumbuka kipindi ni nini? Kipindi ni ukulima ni mali na manjoro, upate hela.
Ojuka, let's come back and talk about it then. Just before I bring in Justina, the question is, the Azimio coalition is saying that majority of the skirmishes that we watched yesterday were essentially abated by the government, or in one way or another, and majority of them have said that they brought in their crooks to essentially destroy businesses, destroy property, and even destroy expressway. So the question they're asking this morning is this, that indeed, if the police wanted to stop the damage that we saw on the expressway yesterday, that it couldn't have taken them more than 10 minutes to actually go and stop the destruction of the property around that area that we saw, that even led to deaths. Do they have a point, Ojuka?
You know, those are lies. Let me tell you, Simba, one policeman controls 100 Kenyans. And yesterday's demo was all over the country. And Nairobi was worse. Everywhere in Nairobi.
Yes.
And now I'm asking you, my good brother, though I'm not the host, between CBD and Mlolongo, where to protect first? CBD, right? So they were still busy on CBD to go to Mlolongo, my brother. And I think the Azimio team should be responsible.
Yes.
For all the damages.
So even within that explanation, Ojuka, then you would say it is just failure of the police to be present when these demonstrations were happening, to the point that, yes, we can say we have a deficit, but then you can't turn it around and then say, well, now because the police were not there, let's blame the protesters and the Azimio coalition for that. That's what they're saying this morning. Like, guys, take us out.
You know, Kenya is a country of rule of law.
Yes.
And because the Article 37 allows you to picket, right? But all the damage should be, should be on your responsibility. You should be responsible for all the damages, right?
Yes.
So I think the monster which we are facing now in the streets all over the Kenya was created or has been created by the team which cannot control it.
Yes.
This is the Azimio team. They should take all responsibility of all the damages which we faced yesterday.
Yes.
Yes.
Pretty much. Justina, the same question, that we cancelled our Kamukunji rally because we were told there were guys from the government and there were goons that were going to be brought to that particular rally so that they could start chaos at that particular area. And so we go ahead and look at the pockets of skirmishes that happened in the country that saw more than 7 Kenyans lose their lives yesterday. That indeed, if you investigate, you will find out that that is not our failure as the Azimio coalition. It's either the failure of the police or the government really trying to get goons to come in and paint the demonstrations as unpeaceful. And they're saying, in fact, if you look at majority of the areas where we managed to protest or our supporters essentially got a call to go to the street, they were peaceful, other than in areas that were targeted by the government. Do they have a point when they say, take us out? We are not in it.
Martha Karua has always said that we have a strategy and we shall unveil. The same thing Raila says. I want to ask Kenyans, and let's just focus on Nairobi, Mlolongo, where there was the expressway was vandalized.
Yes.
And then also pipeline was very bad. Who are the MPs of those two places? Mavoko is in Wiper, is an Wiper MP. That is Embakasi, I think West is a Wiper MP in pipeline. There was a time, I remember, there was this pressure. People used to say, hey, Maandamano is just for the Luos, it's for Raila. So they began this, in Azimio itself, there was this pressure that we want to see even other political parties showing us there is Maandamano. And I remember one time the MP from Mavoko had said, there will be no Maandamano in Mavoko. Are you getting my point? How about internally their own pressures are the ones that are forcing even Wiper MPs to prove that they're in Azimio, to prove that they have supporters on the ground. And their proving is through destruction of property and loss of life. You get my point? And we cannot say that the government was involved. In areas, where was the government not involved? In areas where UDA is the MP. How can government infiltrate an area where it's a Wiper MP, 2 Wiper MPs, and their areas were grossly affected with the Mandamano? So my challenge is, some things are unseen, and I want Kenyans to be using their third eye. This pressure by Baba, that even Martha is forced to go on the ground, that even the previous the previous Kamkunji, I saw Martha had to bring people who vied in her party, because she's being asked, what are you bringing on the table? You're in Azimio, kuonekana on the top. We want to see you on the grassroots. So everyone wants to prove their position in Azimio. And proving your position in Azimio, it is how aggressive you are, how violent you are. That is the better for you to have a space in Azimio. So I want Kenyans to start thinking that, to realize that both Azimio and Kenya Kwanza is not a fight on regime. We are fighting the ruling class, who, one, are full of chaos, who are corrupt, who are incompetent, who have all been in government for far too long. They do not even realize the reality on the ground. If you look at everyone across board, from Kenya Kwanza to Azimio, Raila Amolo Odinga was born in a political family. Ruto himself goes to say that after university, I worked for Moi. That is a disconnect right now. And then Martha says, I am a senior counsel. Orengo says, I'm a senior counsel. It goes to show during that time, after university, you instantly got a job. They are forgetting right now, many Kenyans, every, I think, 500,000 are graduating. They are educated where they were when they finished school. But now the system has beat us down through their own bad leadership. There is no employment for the youth. So when they come here and tell us, I'm a senior counsel, no one is relating to them, because even lawyers are not getting jobs. Sembusi, doctors. We used to think doctors was the best job, the best career, because once you're done with education, you're employed in government. Right now we have unemployed doctors. So what I want Kenyans to realize is that we are not even fighting a regime. We are fighting the ruling class. And Kenyans stop complaining, and I challenge the media. Because I know every time there's a presidential debate, you always fundraise for that, right? No, you have to reverse engineer your budget. The moment Chebukati says these are the people who are going to be on the ballot, kindly organize to have a serious analysis of manifestos. Kenya Kwanza is saying universal health coverage was there. Housing was there. But at that point, they never told Kenyans how they're going to fundraise. So they get there, I know the how has become the 3% levy. So I want the next time going forward, because already it's a lost cause. I don't know what will happen, because Kenyans are saying human. I don't know the direction it's going to take. But going forward, even the media has to educate Kenyans that this particular candidate is saying this, and then you interrogate the how question. How are you going to fund your projects? Let Kenyans vote knowing huyu alisema we are going to pay 3% housing levy, so that you're not going to have this issue of saying, because clearly they're saying it was in their manifesto, but we never got to the question to ask them, how are you going to fundraise for it? And on the issue, there's something he said about congratulating William Ruto. A little bit of civic education. If you want a position in this country, there's the election cycle. You campaign. I was not in Kenya Kwanza. Yes. And then there's the election. My ballot, my name was not on Kenya Kwanza's side. And then there's a declaration. Why I supported is because from where I sit, I believe the election was free and fair. And this one was even supported by Uhuru Kenyatta. Not to say that Uhuru Kenyatta got diluted information. What he got, or the intelligence he got was the raw intelligence that William Ruto had won. Remember, Uhuru Kenyatta had said, "Sitapatia mwizi." So he was not helpless by handing over power to Ruto. He was not. He would have refused if he felt that the election was free and fair. But he knew, following the constitution, the majority of Kenyans, 50+1, had voted for William Ruto. So I want Kenyans to move away. If the chairman of Azimio, Uhuru Kenyatta, handed power, let us move away from the conversation that the election was stolen. Let us move. And I want to tell Kenyans right now, sadly, 21st century, the politics you are playing is politics of populism, politics of polarization, or politics of post-truth. The more lies you tell, the better for you. The more you're popular, the more you divide a country. So Kenyans, sit back and ask yourself, who am I voting for? Does that person have a vision for this country? And media, that is where you're going to help us. Kindly analyze and ask the how, because how is how you're going to know where money will come from.
Yes. Let me ask this particular question just before I cross over to Ojuka this morning, Justina. That majority of traders have now started crying already. And if you did listen just before I came to the conversation this morning, there's one of our viewers who said, well, kids not go to school, businesses were destroyed yesterday, and now They know just because of this lesson, the moment again the Azimio coalition is going to say, let's go to the street again. Now, majority of these traders and business people in the country who have already seen the losses are going to shut down completely now. Just now, this morning, Azimio coalition is saying, for us, we are pushing President William Ruto to talk to us, to get proper terms for us to talk. That's why they pulled out of the bipartisan talks, saying that we felt that there was foul play within the organization of those talks. Who should we ask the question, what next? Because if we present the scenario for Juka saying, well, Ruto is a different man, he doesn't want to meet Raila Amolo Odinga, knowing very well that there's a man who's created a monster in the country, then it's going to be bad for the Kenyan citizens. What should be the next course of action, all right? Yeah. From either one, Raila Amolo Odinga, because we do recognize now he's the one who's calling for the demos, two, Dr. William Ruto, and three, the Kenyan citizenry, who essentially are looking at these two gentlemen to tell them exactly what the next course of action is. Because whether we like it or not, we can sit here, Justina, and say, well, it's up to Kenyans to go out, but every Kenyan will tell you it's my right to believe in what I want to believe and to support whoever that I want to support. That's a constitutionally protected right. What should be the next course of action? Let me start with Dr. President William Ruto.
William Ruto has no choice but to listen to Kenyans. Kenyans have said they don't want housing levy. He has to do away with it. The finance bill, the fuel levy, okay, of course, you're waiting for the court to pronounce itself on it.
Yes.
But it is prudent for him to give us back the subsidies. I know it's short term, but it's a relief. Somewhat it's a relief. And remember, disruptions of the global supply chain, everyone finds a way how to hedge themselves, how to protect themselves. So subsidies, and hedging yourself is temporary. According to the time, there is a challenge. So the subsidies should just be a relief for now. There is money. I'm telling you, this government cannot lie, they don't have money. All the globe trotting, all the country trotting they're doing, all the travels in this country, they have money. So let them focus on priority spending first before they go into sherehe issues. So one thing I said, William Ruto should return the subsidies. Number two, cut down on the non-priority spending. Number three, he has to control how his CSs talk. If you look at Azimio, kusema ukweli, even Baba always says, Ruto anatubeba kama vibaraka wake. So when you look at it deep down, it's just a veiled thing to say the cost of living is high. How the Azimio is taking this thing is that Ruto anaringa, his CSs are ringaing.
Yes.
Ruto has to control his CSs. Everyone working in government has to speak responsibly. Don't come tell us here you have a flag. So what? Are you delivering? Has the investment gone up? So he has to control even the messaging. He has to be very strict. Not that people go drink alcohol and then they're taking the microphone speaking to Kenyans.
Yes.
So that is for him. He has to organize. And number four, he has to stop being a one-man show.
Yes.
Let people perform. People have expertise. People have talent. Mr. President, you can't do everything at the same time. Your role is just policy direction and guiding them towards your vision on what to say. Don't be a one-man show.
Yes.
For Azimio, through the failures of Kenya Kwanza, they have seen an opportunity to bring chaos. So I think once all this, the cost of living subsidies is brought back, then probably Azimio won't have anything to do. So Kenya Kwanza stops self-sabotaging. And quickly, I want to correct government. They are saying that I saw a challenge that Ruto, a photo was taken of him and his cabinet, that they have maize, they have planted maize. Remember, they never gave fertilizers free to farmers. It was subsidized. People are buying at 3,500, added the cost of going to pick it. So maybe it came to around 4K when you go to your shamba. You will not force farmers to sell you the maize cheaply. Farmers will look at your prices and they'll say, okay, let me dry my maize and store it for a better reason. So we are not going to control this issue. You can't force farmers to sell maize to you cheaply. So the issue is not telling us that, oh, to later fertilizer. No. Farmers have a right to sell their produce where they're making profits. So when government is sitting down, think about the food security. Can you think about from the point someone alichimba shimo to the point where they're selling? Is this farmer making a profit or not?
Pretty much. All right, Ojuka, I want to cross over to you. This particular conversation that Justina Wamai is actually introduces exactly what I wanted to also put across to you on exactly the communication that we're getting from the government side and from within the Kenya Kwanza government on what they think about this particular demos. And I'll put this across to you. That this is according to Senator Kiprotich Arap Cherargei. This is what he's saying. That Azimio, that is Oka or Tinga Public Mandamanos, is never peaceful. The evidence below includes non-respect to even sponsors of the economic sabotage. The government shall ensure the sponsors, architects and facilitators of this mayhem, anarchy and lawlessness are brought to book, led by Tinga. If the police don't arrest Tinga and his ilk, we shall do public arrest by our supporters and defend our property. Then goes right ahead to share the pictures that essentially emanated from yesterday's demonstrations. Ojuka.
Yes.
If this is essentially the Azimio coalition telling William Ruto that we need you to address the cost of living, save for what personal interest might be, because this time around they've said we're going to get our demonstrators to go out and demonstrate against the high cost of living. Why can't he tell his boys? Why can't he tell his hangers-on that, look here, do not pronounce yourself on these particular issues? Because if indeed today Senator Cherargei is asking his supporters to go arrest Raila Amolo Odinga, that is essentially looks like the strategy that the Kenya Kwanza government is taking. And he's not the only one who's pronounced himself on this. Majority of the Kenya Kwanza leaders are saying, well, why can't we bring him to book? Should President William Ruto lead the conversation of where to take the country in as regards implementation of the agenda? Because the Azimio coalition now is moved away from conversations of bipartisan talks, opening the service. Now they're saying, look here, the cost of living is making this government illegitimate, so we gotta go out and take them out of office. Then why can't Ruto lead the conversation on exactly what's going on? Because Ojuka, today you read various submissions from Kenya Kwanza leaders that are essentially, you would say, vile. It is bring it on. Essentially, that's the conclusion. Bring it on. We're gonna come to you.
First of all, before your point, right?
Yes.
Where I disagree with my sister, Sister Justin, is that Ruto, Dr. William Samuel Ruto is a showman. Ruto delegates duty. It should be in a public domain. Ruto delegates duty. It's not a one-man show, as per opinion. Back to your point, my brother. Before around mid this year,
yes,
we wanted to create opposition office fully funded by government, so that opposition leader as Raila Amolo Odinga can sit down as official, can sit down with the president to have a discussion over Kenyans. They declined.
Ojuka, they did not decline.
They declined.
No, they did not decline.
I'm telling you.
Ojuka, no, they did not decline. Are you going to tell Kenyans
I'm
this?
telling you they declined.
Are you going to tell this Kenya? Are you going to tell Kenyans this morning that even did the president was well-intentioned, saying, well, let's create that position today and that bill should be in parliament tomorrow? Do you think, with the majority they enjoy in the National House, that that would essentially not go through, going by how the Finance Act is now essentially an act?
Let me tell you.
Yes.
The class of politicians,
yes,
who benefit from this chaos. That's why they won't allow opposition leader Raila Amolo Odinga
yes,
to have a smooth dialogue with President William Ruto.
Ojuka, who would decline such kind of emotion?
But before we created the bipartisan talk,
yes,
we wanted to create for Raila Amolo Odinga an office.
Just answer me this question.
Yes.
Who would decline? Who would decline? Because we've seen how the Kenya Kwanza government essentially plays its politics in the National House, isn't it? We have the numbers, we enjoy the majority, and we are going to support our president implement his agenda.
Yes.
If the president says the way I want to run this country is by creating that office of the opposition,
yes,
are we going to sit here and say, President, that would not essentially go through? Is this his boys, I would say that, who would decline?
You know, boys are both sides.
Yes.
There are boys in Azimio, there are also boys in government.
In respect to this conversation.
It's like you're becoming so dishonest when you keep on mentioning boys from government side.
Yes,
and
but they are here, Ojuka.
Yes.
They are here and you know them.
You've just read for me the tweets of
Yes.
Senator Cheregai.
I'll go on and read the rest of them today in the morning.
Cheregai.
Yes.
But you've not told me what Ledama said yesterday.
Yes.
Yesterday night.
Yes.
These people are so abusive. The Azimio team, they're so abusive. The boys from Azimio team, so
Yes.
abusive.
But fine.
They're not boys.
Ojuka, fine. Fine. And we do agree that. And they will say, well, we're in opposition. We can say whatever it is that we want. But since Kenyans aren't looking at one man to give them a solution today, all right, how should they be communicating, Ojuka?
I think the communication to
Yes.
Kenya, to government in place
Yes.
should be in written form. And they should show Kenyans, this is our own alternative
Yes.
way of governing the government.
But it's not happening. That's the question I'm asking you this morning.
So you want to
today,
tell
if I
me-
woke up this morning, Cleophas Malala will speak something different.
Yes.
Cherargei will speak something different. The rest of Kimani Ichung'wah will speak something different. I will tell you, Trade CS, Moses Kuria will speak something different. And these are the vocal leaders within that particular party. So once they speak, we do know that that's the view of the man up top. Because he hasn't spoken on this issue, Ojuka, this morning.
Yeah, but you see, I think you're right. There's a crisis.
Yes.
There's crisis which is trying to sabotage. And so the solution to salvage the situation where we are now
Yes.
cannot be found on streets.
Fine.
Sit down.
Good, fine.
They
Ojuka.
give us an alternative.
Should
An
I take you
alternative.
back?
Yes.
Should I take you back to the conversations before the bipartisan talks?
Yes.
Did the boys not say no to
Boys
any
from what
negotiation?
side?
From the government side.
The same to Azimio
They
boys.
said no.
The same to Azimio boys.
No, they said no.
President
Raila
Ruto said
Amolo Odinga
no.
was
You
right.
guys,
Yes.
can we get to an office so that we can talk with
That's
your
it.
leaders? You know, Raila Amolo Odinga got 6 million
Yes.
votes, right? Such kind of a leader cannot hang out. He should be given an office funded fully by government. The government wanted to create an office for Raila Amolo Odinga. They declined. The boys, those who benefit from chaos.
Ojuka,
Right?
who's this to decline?
They declined. It's a public domain, bro. They declined. They declined.
But that particular motion has not been included in parliament.
Do you know what brought the 2010 constitution?
Yes.
Was hybrid system. We wanted to know where the problem was
Yes.
back then, right?
Yes.
So we wanted to create, office for position, so that we create the we salvage the crisis we're facing now. Raila Odinga from the office, President William Ruto from the office, so that the big men can sit down on a table,
Yes.
not handshake. We've got no business of handshake.
Yes.
Because handshake has got nothing.
What is not coming clear from you, Ojuka, this morning is that indeed, if one President William Ruto would essentially ask the chair of
Let me
National
tell
House
you, my
Business
brother.
to introduce that particular motion, it would have already sailed through.
Let me tell you, my brother.
Yes.
The problem of Azimio
Yes.
and what they are busy looking for is handshake. Nothing more. I'm telling you. Because these are the same people who work with Moi. They're the same people who demonized Kibaki and worked with them. The same people who demonized Uhuru Kenyatta and Uhuru became an enemy.
Yes.
Later worked with them.
Ojuka, so if that's
Right?
what they're looking,
Now President William Ruto is an enemy. Soon he'll be a brother.
If that's what they're looking for,
Yes,
if
that's what they are looking for.
And that's the question that I asked. If that's what they're looking for, and you here saying, no, William Ruto is not like the rest of them, he's not going to give it to them. To what end?
We've got
Are we
two
going to sit
groups.
here and say that Kenya is the most treating country for the next 5 years?
Let me tell you, my brother Simba. Simba, you were born wise. We've got two groups here.
Yes.
One, fighting for high cost of living in Kenya. Two, another group looking for handshake and positions within the government.
Yes.
That's the reality. And we know sponsors of this demo. We know them. I think we need to be so honest to Kenyan people. If the Azimio team wanted to put government on toss,
Yes.
they could have accepted the office of opposition.
Yes.
So they operate from the office to government. I think that's the
Yes.
Yes.
Pretty much. Now, here's the thing, and I'm going to go on a break like this, and I'm going to come back with you just in a while so that now we can essentially put this conversation into proper perspective. It is the so what, because we are sitting here waiting for a solution that seemingly is not coming. Because then we're in the position where saying, maybe now, the perspective or the position that the other presidents before William Ruto took wasn't bad after all. Because Kenyans are crying today about how their businesses are getting affected, about how the economy essentially is getting sabotaged. And they're calling it right. It's an economic sabotage. So even did you hear telling us that the country is going to grow, we're trying to implement policies that are going to make the country grow. On the other side, week in, week out, you're also crying about economic sabotage. Can't you see then you have no solution? Once we come back now, let me just essentially read one comment right here from Kimani Chua, who's saying that I pray that my friend Kalonzo Musyoka was not party to the chaos in Mlolongo to Emale. If he was, then neither the sponsors, and we're going to know who the sponsors are, that Ojuka also keeps on saying, it looks like Kimani Chua as well knows who the sponsors are, looted billions have truly been deployed from the Mara bankers, or truly, witchcraft then is real. Manstivo, uko upande gani? That's the question that he's asking. And then goes on to say, the lot of violence lies without blinking and is aided by the Githeri media to use anarchy and propaganda to negotiate for selfish gain on the blood of innocent Kenyans. And today, that is yesterday, they haven't even spared this sponsor. How shameless. Once we come back right here, we look at more stories that emanated from yesterday as we ask Justina Wamae and Ojuka right here on the set that if indeed the government side is saying, we are not like the previous president. I mean, I'm talking about Raila Amolo Odinga, President Moi, and President Kibaki. Then what next? Because Kenyans are also saying this thing can't go wrong. Once we come back.
Are you a junior secondary school, a college, a TVET institution or a university and you want to advertise your intake? Book now and advertise with us today on both Lookuptv and all our digital platforms. Call us today on 011 0430 158, 011 0430 158 or email us on sales@lookuptv.co.ke.
Hi, and welcome to Tujenge Home. Your number one show when it comes to all things architecture, real estate, property development, interior design. You get it right here on Tujenge Home. When the food is ready.
You want to serve them?
Dinner is served.
Let's go. Let's go.
Let's get it.
It's all about trying out fresh meals. As you know, your health comes first. Experience a tasty and sweet aroma in your kitchen today. It's not just about cooking, but also having fun, interesting conversations, keeping it professional, and not forgetting refreshing moments.
Oh, let me tell you, mine is gonna be
The Cook-Off with Alex Karani, Saturdays at 6 p.m.
Right, welcome back. Let's then end this conversation this morning like this then. I'm going to essentially put these stories together so we can see exactly what the view of yesterday's demos essentially were. Now, we did a story about what Raila's account was yesterday when essentially said he blamed the government for the mayhem that rocked protests yesterday and increased police shootings, assault, and harassment meted on citizens. But I'm going to move on to the fifth story that we got to do yesterday about how Nakuru traders condemned protests. Now, the Nakuru business community condemned the violent and chaotic demonstrations in Nakuru town. Led by area chairman Stephen Muli, the members claimed that the protest, which led to the destruction of property in Nakuru, West Sub-County, had been financed by prominent individuals who sponsored Raila Odinga's campaign in the 2022 elections. The leader said the demonstrations are likely to paralyze the country's peace and dent an economy yet to recover from the scars of the COVID-19 pandemic. Let's take a look at that story, because indeed now that is what leads us into the next question of so what?
Hiyo maandamano ya leo haikukuwa maandamano. Ilikuwa mambo ya kuweza kupora watu, kuiba, kufunja manduka, kuchoma mali ya watu. Hapa hatukuona maandamano ya amani. Tuliona tu ni kitu ilikuwa imepangwa, na hapa Nakuru tunajua kuko na watu ambao waliletwe, na tunajua wale viongozi ambao waliwalete. Na kile kitendo ambao kimefanyika hapa kwa mji wetu wa Nakuru, tunataka kulaani tukiwa na uchungu mwingi sana. Na biashara leo zimeharibika. Biashara nyingi zimeweza kufungwa, na kama kiongozi wafanya biashara tunataka kusema hivi: hatutakubali biashara zetu ziweze kuharibiwa.
Ya leo ni kukashifu vikali sana, na haswa kiongozi wa opposition Raila Odinga. Sisi tunasema wewe tayari laana iko juu yako kwa sababu ya mambo ambayo imefanyika siku hii ya leo. Raila, tunakuambia kwamba wewe hauko juu ya sheria, na kitu ambayo umefanya siku ya leo, umefanya mambo ambayo sio Kenya peke yake, dunia mzima imeweza kuikashifu. Raila ashikwe, awekwe ndani. Akiwekwa ndani hakuna kitu itaharibika. Raila ni mwana Kenya kama yule mtu mwingine yote. Akiingizwa kwa gereza, Raila mambo itapoa.
Ni aibu sana kupata kwamba imesemekana maandamano itakuwa ya amani, alafu mtu amejifungulia biashara yake inakuja inabomolewa. Huyo mtu atampenda Raila ama atamchukia? Kwa hivyo ni ya muhimu kuelewa kwamba wakati unasema watu wafanye maandamano na wewe mwenyewe umetangaza itakuwa ya amani, wacha pawe na amani. Kwa mara ya kwanza tumeona askari wetu wakiwa na amani sana. Wamekuwa wametulia. Kama hao watu wangefanya maandamano ya amani, hakuna mtu angewakashifu. Tunalia kwa sababu kadhaa watu wameshadungwa visu. Maana hao hawakuchunguza na intelligence yao kujua ni nani wanaandamana. Na wamevunja maduka ya watu. Tayari wameanza kuingiza watu kwa hasara, kitu ambacho mtu anajaribu kujimudu. We are condemning that.
So those are the complaints then of the citizenry, and that story essentially comes from Nakuru, which essentially also yesterday was at a standstill because majority of those demos were witnessed in that city. Justina, let's introduce this conversation like this then. Regardless of what Raila Odinga wants, regardless of what the Azimio coalition wants for Ruto to do, for us citizens, what we depend on is a peaceful country that allows every other citizen to go out, by the end of the day, get something at the table. So those traders from Nakuru are saying, well, we do not see exactly where we're going. Now this country looks unpeaceful, we can't run our businesses, and since nothing seems to be happening around this conversation, see what they're calling for. They are calling for one Ruto and Raila Odinga to talk. That for us, we're not interested. Give us the peace. But when you listen to Ojuka and the guys in the Kenya Kwanza government, they will turn around, Justin, and tell you, no. We don't recognize Raila Odinga. If we're going to talk to him, we're going to talk him within the precipice of law. So any other thing that you guys want, we don't want it. Would Ruto be considered less powerful, Justina, if he said, well, bury the hatchet, come, let's talk, because I want to run this country?
There's something Ojuka said, and I need to Kenyans to think.
Yes.
Why are we creating an office for Raila Odinga? We need to create institutions for the future. One day I can be the official leader of opposition. Justina can be there.
He's been on not saying, well, it's not for Raila Amolo Odinga, it's for the
No,
opposition.
his argument is that you're creating an office for Raila Amolo Odinga.
Yes.
So I want us to be very careful that one day even I can be leader of opposition, even one day I can be the president, even when I leave, because people leave because of time, and another generation will come. So let us create institutions not for individuals, but for future of prosperity. However, these guys are saying that there are people who are funding Mandamano. We have to circle back from how we do our politics in this country. Of course, there are people who fund campaigns. That one we have to agree. Either it was Azimio, either it was Kenya Kwanza. There are those people, big money spend, who fund campaigns. Their purpose is for policy intervention. Whatever business you're doing, government to look the other way or come up with policy to favor you. That we have to agree. Now, when someone loses an election, and there were so many people who funded, they're the same people who, because they're disgruntled, they want to push the government of the day for their person to be given consideration so that they can benefit. You get my point? So it goes back, what can we do? To what end? To what end is the time Kenyans say no to big money spent during campaigns? No to forcing a mheshimiwa to come there and, you know, akulete vitu kwa ground and it's just t-shirt little money. No to, you want, someone is just saying, I'm just going to spend my money the last minute to election and then guys are going to vote for me, nitachafua ground. So when Kenyans say no to that, Kenyans start supporting small parties from grassroots level. If you give 10 shillings, that is not something worth for you to go die for. At least you've contributed, haba na haba. But the moment a big political party, and I have to even challenge the MPs.
Yes.
Many MPs from Mount Kenya were saying, I didn't have money for campaign, but William Ruto funded me. Ask yourself, because Ruto cannot have all that money, I mean, he's not that rich. Ask yourself the hands behind the people who are funding him. Remember the edible oil scandal? It is associated to a woman who is told that she fundraised for the campaign. So that is how she was going to recoup her money back. So to what end? Citizens, stop njando godogo. Can you start focusing on not huyu atatoa huyu, the way we said Sonko atatoa Kidero? No, start focusing on after the election, the delivery. That's the conversation I want Kenyans to start thinking about. Because again, we are here saying that maybe Azimio will say, we are going to fight this thing until Ruto listens. We are going to cause mayhem, because that's what they're saying. If that is the language, and that is what Martha has been saying. If Ruto is hard on hearing, we are going to bring this Mandamano till he listens. That's a very good strategy. And I want to remind Azimio people that Sankara used it. The other people, Mandela used it. But that was in the 20th century. Now we are focusing on the 21st century. Why China is becoming a superpower is because of continuous improvement, is because of innovation. Why can't we innovate our systems? You know, under human intervention from some things. Kenyans are complaining that the police on the road are asking them for bribe. Do we need the police? For instance, there's the year for artificial intelligence. Let's come up with solutions to our problems besides complaining that this government is not doing this. Then what would you do? So I want the change in this country will lie with the citizens. And remember, we are not fighting the regime. We are fighting a ruling class that is chaotic, that is corrupt, that is incompetent, and that has been in power for far too long. They have lost touch with the reality on the ground.
Yes, pretty much. Ojuka, do you agree that indeed it's not about Raila Amolo Odinga now? This particular issue, to what end, would be back to Kenyans?
You know, where I have a problem with the Azimio team, these are the same people with the same strategy, because these are the same people who demonized former President Moi. They're the same people who demonized Kibaki. They demonized Uhuru Kenyatta. But so long as their interests have been served, they after demonizing, they give you a name from an enemy to a brother. I think because we've got a presidential system of government where we've got the majority and the minority leader in the parliament. If they've got grievances that they need to be sorted out in the government, then they should channel them to via government. What's wrong with that? Azimio team led by Opiyo Wandayi, Mheshimiwa Opiyo Wandayi, they should look for Imani Chungwa.
Yes.
To sort out the issue, not protest, not streets. We wanted to give Raila Odinga a figure as Nelson Mandela. He has never been an ordinary man. But there are people misusing his figure, his face, destroying it, bro. But because You cannot enslave a mind that knows itself.
Yes.
Value itself.
Yes.
And understand itself. That's the problem we're facing as Kenya.
Yes.
Yes.
Pretty much. Justin, I gotta ask you this question this morning. It's been directed to you, by the way. Let me just essentially begin. Wow, the comments are a lot this morning. I'm just gonna pick all of them at once. Good. Let me begin with Alvin. And this is exactly what he's asking this morning. That indeed there's a solution through bipartisan talks to get Kenyans out of the streets. And the only person who can make that possible is William Ruto, but seemingly he doesn't want. Respond.
Of course, William Ruto owes us Kenyans duty of care, duty of peace, duty of tranquility. And he cannot sit there and assume that it's about his ego. Kibaki was told he was the best president, but people always say in 2007, there was post-election violence under his watch. So William Ruto, you owe us duty of care.
Yes. Pretty much. All right. Let me cross over to. You're going to respond to that. Let me cross over to. Wow. There's Micah. Thank you very much for watching this morning, and you are watching us from Kisii. Let me do this. 2 questions to you. The both of you are on set today. Ask Ojuka, why is he pretending that he doesn't know that this is an issue between Ruto and Raila, and should those 2 gentlemen speak, Kenya is going to be peaceful for the next 5 years?
But this is not the best way of solving it. To streets and protest. This is destruction of properties. If there is a way of solving it,
yes,
or to salvage the situation where we are now,
yes,
it should be channeled them to parliament, or gentlemen to sit down and Uhuru chair the meeting. So if there's a problem between Raila Amolo Odinga and President William Samoei Ruto, then Uhuru is sleeping, because now Uhuru is a big brother now to them. As a former president, he should intervene. What's going on? Because I saw former President Uhuru Kenyatta as the head of peacekeeping in DRC, and yet he's home, there's fire. Then he's honest. He's not so honest, unless maybe when, I'm not sure, but if any case someone can say is one of the financials, then you can accept that. Because you can't pretend that you are the head of peacekeeping in DRC, and where you come from, this problem, then he's sleeping.
Yes, pretty much. Same question to you. Micah, who's asking, can you please remind Justin Awamai that the citizens will never have a solution? Kenyan politics has a way it is structured, and so it's not bound to change. Solutions should come from the leaders in the country.
I disagree with him, because even Martha is saying Article 1 says power belongs to the people.
Yes.
And that is why they are taking Mandamano back to the people.
Yes.
So the solution is for the citizen. And I want him to think as a 21st century citizen.
Yes.
Solution is that you vote for people with ideas. Don't vote for big money. Don't vote for someone because of your tribe. Focus on who is giving solutions to your problems. I am so sure there's an MCA who ran where he is, but he couldn't listen to him because either he was supporting the yellow team or the blue team. So start thinking as a 21st century citizen.
Yes.
Do you want solutions to your problems? Yes. Vote people who have something between their head, not people who are dead from the neck.
Yes, pretty much. Brian Njagi this morning is asking Ojuka, could you kindly tell us who the sponsors of the demonstrations are that your party, that your government keeps on mentioning, and you're mentioning it this morning on Lookuptv's morning show?
We soon disclosing them to Kenyan people. We soon disclosing them to Kenyan people. Ngoja, mwambia ngoje. We soon disclosing them to Kenyan people, because we must have peace.
Also disclose the ones who also supported Kenya Kwanza. You know, it's about big money spending. I think it'll be fair.
Thank you very much. Okay, let me end with this question from Odero Christopher. How are you doing, sir? Thank you very much. Hopefully you're doing okay this morning. Can you ask Justin Awamai if there's going to be a solution through the political party structure in this country?
Yes. The role of ORPP is to strengthen political parties.
Yes.
Kenyans have been averse. Kenyans have decided to move away from politics. Here the businessmen are saying, it is for you guys to decide.
Yes.
That is where Kenyans go wrong. You don't just be there during voting. Be there even when there are these grassroots recruitments. I'm so sure if I came with a political party, maybe the Greens, maybe Kenyans will not listen to me because the Greens doesn't have the money. No, if they were not in Kenya Kwanza, so to say, if they were not. So Kenyans need to change their perspective. you in your polling station, organize yourself. You're a professional. Involve yourself in politics from the grassroots. So that by the time even you're having people in the NEC, National Executive, it's people who have been accepted from the grassroots. You saw what happened in Jubilee. People are saying we are members of the NDC, but we are hearing some of them have been collected from around. They are not representing the counties. So Kenyans, when you're joining a political party, do you read the constitution? Do you understand? Do you want to involve yourself? Because to be very honest, Kenyans, we cannot shy away the fact that politics and economy go hand in hand. When you have someone who is dead from the neck upwards, making a policy affecting the economy, the companies you work for will run away from this country because they will not have a conducive environment for business. So don't sit back and say, "Iyo ni maneno ya politicians." You are also a politician. You are also a leader. You have a vision why you take your children to school because you want them to be in a better Kenyan. If education was not important, we would have so many people leaving their kids around because people will say, "Hakuna kazi, so am I investing in education?" So the same way you're serious about the education of a child, get serious about politics. Focus on political parties. And I dare say, why do big money spend creeps into political parties? If individual Kenyans would give 5 bob, you'd fundraise for the party, you'd own the party. But the party has to have logistics. So someone will identify, I have money that is lying around, I want policy intervention, let me fund this party for my own gains. So you as an individual Kenyan, from today henceforth, we are fighting a ruling class who have always been there, and 8 million of you Kenyans said that the people who they are voting for, they never felt they were relating to any of the people who are on the ballot for the presidential. The 8 million of you, how about you sit back and realize which political party is in my vicinity? Yes. What is the ideology? What are the principles? And then you start supporting. Kidogo kidogo, you will see even people will have a voice, because even the candidate who is on the ticket, it won't be someone who gave money to the party. It will be someone who you guys know huyu anaweza kuwa MCA mzuri. You're the ones who propose this guy, he's going to fight for you. So it's not about leaders. Kenyans, you've made politics a point where it's about making money. It's better than the working in private sector. It's very unfair that public sector is more lucrative than private sector. It's not supposed to be that way. Actually, people who go to public should go there because of service, not because it's lucrative. So Kenyans, you have a role. Please wake up, start looking for a political party that is making sense to you, start joining political parties, start getting yourself involved in political activities. Yes. And we need the return of grassroots mobilization. Issue of political parties kuonekana kwa top is not helping. Yes. Grassroots. So that by the time we are going into another election, people know I'm choosing this one because this is the ideology and these are the principles. Pretty much. All right, Ojuka, then let's look at the bigger picture now as we draw close to our conversation this morning. Yes. The Azimio coalition now do know that indeed they are creating impact in the country, whether negative or positive. For them, they feel like they are winning, and so they're going to keep on pushing this particular margin until the time when the government, and they're wishing for that, would then say, okay, we can't stand it anymore, let's talk. You keep on saying that demonstrations are not winning the day. Yeah. But according to Kenyans, they are winning the day, Ojuka. Do you think it is wrong then for one, President William Ruto, to not at all, at least in the meantime, try as hard as possible to keep on engaging the opposition side to the point that Kenyans do not witness what they witnessed yesterday? In fact, it is sad that 9 lives in total were lost yesterday. It is a sad, sad scenario.
So sad, yes.
Yes.
First of all, I agree there's a high cost of living in Kenya.
Yes.
But when will President work for Kenyans if he keep on engaging opposition? He needs to work for Kenyans. I think he should not create time to engage oppositions. If opposition have an alternative grievances to Kenyans or to President William Ruto, then it should be channeled to Parliament. Two,
just before you go to the, just before you go to the next one now, yes. Who is it delivering for if the same people that wants to deliver for are dying every time the demonstrations that are happening in the country, Ojuka?
You see, those who died, and sorry for them, and it's so sad to lose the lives of people.
Yes.
Most of them were Raila Odinga's, Azimio supporters, right? Those who voted in Azimio team. But now, if you are a responsible chieftain and you've realized in a battle, it's you losing your people, your troops. Why don't you come with an alternative strategy which cannot make you to lose your troops unless the lives of your troops are not important to you? I get the point. Back to my sister's point. I respect most justice, my sister. She's a woman with a liberal mind. I would advise her to join the government. Ruto is a good man. Come, we support the government. This is a woman who disagreed with her boss on principles. Are you getting the point?
Yes.
Come, we support the government.
Justina,
if there is an issue,
the olive branch has officially been extended to you.
Yes.
It's up to you now to declare.
Sadly, I'm not a shareholder, so I wasn't a shareholder.
No.
Yeah?
The head of the government is President William Samoei Ruto.
Yes.
Rigiji is a man to defend the government.
Yes.
He's not the head. He's not the appointing authority. Yes, come we support the government. I'm happy she quitted the other team.
Yes.
Which could advocate the bank to our youth. Back to your point, my brother Simba. I think the head of Azimio team, they are not honest even to their supporters. And Raila Odinga is a good starter, I can confess that. But those around him are using him for political gain or mileage. He should rethink.
Good. Justina, some question, even as you try and make your mind whether you want to take up the olive branch that has been explained to you by one Ojuka, that at the end of the day, if the Azimio side know their only way is to the streets, they're going to keep on doing it. And if they can't get arrested, and if they can't be stopped in any other way, that is the order of the country now. Well, we do know that within a day or a week, we're going to stop doing everything so we can go to the street and riot. It negates everything that Dr. President William Ruto is trying to achieve. That in normal common sense units, they will say, I'd rather you don't achieve everything right now, but at least to achieve one as you go by. Because you have an issue here that you have to deal with. You can't close your eyes to it. Is it failing by not taking it up and making it a personal issue?
For the President William Ruto?
Yes.
Remember, his hands are tied. I've always told Kenyans there's something called people who finance a campaign. Probably even Ruto is really caring about the housing levy. He's caring about the VAT on fuel. And he's always come off as a man who cares.
Yes.
But remember, there are so many people who funded his campaign. Similarly to Azimio, so many people funded their campaign. And sadly, government is seen as lucrative. So everyone wants, in fact, maybe even the financiers are on his neck right now. They're like, man, we need our money back. You'd say our money is going to come back after this period. So I think the best thing they can do, both of them, Azimio, Raila Amolo Odinga and William Ruto, can you first talk to your sponsors? Because when they were funding you, you people were already friends. I know they're the ones who are pressuring you. Can you first talk to them, tell them you need to sort out the Kenyan issue? In fact, even during Kibaki's time, there was corruption. But people were stealing that the over target. You know, what KRA was supposed to collect when they overshoot the target. That is what used to be stolen. So maybe let us first sort out the issues of the citizens, because they have to repay money they gave for campaigns. That is why people invest in politics, because there is money in government. Sadly, we have not been innovative enough. We are not creative. We are not even focusing on continuous improvement. So government of Kibaki is not the government of today. Remember, there's the debt issue. And I want to remind William Ruto, him and Uhuru are the ones who are friends when there was the Eurobond issue. It was given out without a prospectus, without an instrument. And even if that money came into the market, the Kenyan market, we would have hired engineers from the country.
Yes.
We would have seen the cement industry is going up because of consumption. But if we take up a loan and then everything is coming back, everything is coming from China, how are the Kenyans going to get involved in terms of paying income tax? So I think what they can do, because their hands are tied by their financiers.
Yes.
Talk to your financiers, tell them the Kenyans are suffering, tell them that Kenyans are not ready to hear that you're recouping your money right now. Sort out the economy. And William Ruto, you have no choice. Whether you have a big ego or not, whether Raila is taunting you or not, You owe Kenyans duty of care. You owe Kenyans duty of peace, duty of tranquility. That is something I'm going to tell William Ruto.
All right.
And maybe this is the closing, right?
Yes, in a minute.
And probably he's saying
Yes.
that Azimio has been telling us they're collecting the 10 million signatures. And Martha Karua said that it is not for any purpose. It's just to show William Ruto that we are following. Sadly, Azimio, your following can only be judged during voting. Start mobilizing for 2027. Finally, William Ruto, control your MPs, give us fuel subsidy, control your CSs, because they're talking as if they don't care or they don't live in this country. Give us subsidies on fuel. Stop globetrotting. You will not tell us you don't have money.
Yes.
And you're traveling.
Pretty much. Take them back to the time that they joined us this morning at Lookuptv across all your social media platforms. Now we do know. Indeed, the conversation points are out. Leaders have spoken. You have spoken. You've spoken to us. Like Justina Omai is saying, it is up to you and I. It's up to you. It's neither a William Ruto case or a Raila Amolo Odinga case. Do you agree? Take the conversation online and Lookuptv across all your social media platforms. Our website www.lookuptv.co.ke. So good morning. Good time to say goodbye. See you tomorrow.